So this video is titled One Conservative versus 20 Feminist. Let's see what happens.
They don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this, then spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candace Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am surrounded by 20 feminists. My first claim is that the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely
regardless
less
of its
happy.
content. Yeah, we got male feminist up in here.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm
You
Candace.
ain't getting any pussy,
So
bro.
my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Interesting.
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
The first claim.
The sexual revolution gave.
I'm happy to
Oh,
answer
my
it. I'm
bad.
just saying
Actually,
that.
I didn't even read the. Did they say it? I don't think I was listening. The sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. All right. So what she's saying is, okay, so women are more valuable in the home then, is basically what Candace Owens is saying. And yeah, like women be getting murdered in the home. So like, are they more valuable dead than alive? I don't think so.
If you brought in that statistic, you are more likely in general just to be murdered by somebody you know. So of course.
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
That's not
partners.
true.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop. Yeah, exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not
the sexual revolution increased women's.
So obviously what she's implying here is that, like the reason that women get murdered by their partners and men don't is because men are stronger. Men can protect themselves, But that kind of falls apart when you think for more than like 1 second about it. People... It is very easy to murder somebody that is bigger than you. All you need is a knife. All you need is a knife or a gun. And then it becomes very easy, even if you're a lot smaller than them. So any human that has hands and fingers can use a knife or use a gun. So anyway, all that is to say is like women... And this is a controversial opinion that I have. Like, this is I don't know about controversial, but it's definitely not the like popular consensus. Women are equally as dangerous as men. They are equally as capable of murder, of killing. Okay, and they do be murdering. Okay, but not as often. Why is that? I don't know.
To leave the house.
I don't know. It must be because they're so
their own
weak
reproductive
and feeble.
Capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that like the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So like, without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered, for sure.
Okay, I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued women.
I think you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay. Okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear,
Right.
if we're talking about just like a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when
Did you
people
say
know
there's a
relationships
distinction?
and domestic violence.
Wait.
Anyone disagree?
Huh?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay. Okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and
correlation,
domestic
yeah, okay.
violence. And just to be clear,
Right.
if we're talking about just like a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people are intimate,
That's not a true
That is actually
statistic.
true. They
No,
are.
the statistic.
Interesting statistic. Interesting. I would have to look into that. I still don't think it really fucking matters. Like, oh yeah, like we're not talking. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? What, like women be gay, and that's bad? Like what does that have to do with the premise though? The premise is the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy, which infinitely is not like a metric that you can actually it doesn't apply, and it doesn't really apply anywhere. Infinity is a concept and not a number, so when you're trying to measure something, infinity is not a fucking measurement, okay? So right off the bat, this premise is kind of ridiculous, okay, but I understand what it's trying to say, which is like women are just like less happy and blah blah. They could have just taken out the infinitely. It just is stupid. Anyway, I think it's really funny to watch this and listen to Candace Owens try to like justify, like, yeah, actually like women were like way more happy when they were like captured in their homes, when they were like subservient to their husbands. Yeah, they were like way more
I think
happy.
you're talking about is people
Okay.
who have faced domestic
Okay.
violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which
No,
they were mistreated.
lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have
Not
on the
true,
books.
but we can move
Statistically,
on.
they can fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're
But
married,
you're
whether they're
saying
in the
that
home.
the sexual
Let me
revolution.
finish.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people be fighting, okay? Like, I still don't really. The thing is, like, you can't. When you're talking about this, specifically what they're talking about, which is this premise that, like, the sexual revolution made women less happy and more unsafe, like, that idea to me is ridiculous. But if you use statistics, the statistics will actually, on the surface, like, support Candace Owens' claim here. But it doesn't work because what you don't realize is that the most women that were alive back then that were getting domestically abused, they were getting slapped around or like beat up, straight up like beat, they weren't going to the police. They weren't reporting this. Like, it didn't go into statistics. So you can't compare a lack of statistics to the presence of statistics. It doesn't fucking work. Okay, this violence was like, and that's what makes this so fucking funny, is that the violence that women experienced in their homes with their husbands was so normalized in culture. It, like, slapping a broad like that's like a thing. That's like a funny. Now we look back on it and it's like ridiculous. So ridiculous, it's kind of funny. But it was normalized back then to violently batter women if they like weren't in line. And that's why it's so fucking funny to try and say, like, oh, actually they were happier back then. Yeah, dude. Sure.
I've let you try to explain how this
Okay,
is
look, relationships are so much more violent now with look at these statistics. Yeah,
yes, I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now.
You're so fucking stupid.
Yes, absolutely. It makes perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship, because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to marry these women or to have long-term relationships, what I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness, because women are giving up their goods for free, and women
women just be sluts, women just be whoring around, okay, selling to the lowest bidder. Yeah, dude, that's what's happening. Yeah, women just be
the workplace,
whores.
And that does not actually
Am I right?
make them happy.
Am I right, fellas?
Pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
They should have given her more time.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
Hi,
I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you. Julian.
Terrible
My pronouns are they,
haircut.
them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about placing value, that comes from a place of power, right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value, no matter the gender. So when it comes to the sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education, and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes people happy or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian within our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic. I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us, so we can gain those spaces and create a healthier society.
Okay, are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make?
So, this is something that a lot of people that aren't well versed in debate culture, and like debate, just like debating in general, people that don't do it much, most people, when they're just ordinary, when they're just normies, okay, they will when they are confronted with an idea that they disagree with, they will immediately start to try to craft a narrative. Okay? Try to craft a narrative. And they'll try to say no, actually this isn't true because of blah 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 blah. And you don't need to do that. Okay? All you need to do when you are faced with a premise like the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them less happy, all you have to do is, and this is what I would do, I'd walk up to the chair and I would be like, how did the sexual revolution devalue women and make them less happy? And then Candace Owens would start talking. She starts rattling off some bullshit, and that's where you look for your vector of attack. Okay, that's where you try to poke holes in what they're saying. Okay, when you don't, and I don't blame any of these people for not knowing this, but that is the best way to win here, to deconstruct what Candace has put forward, and kind of convince the audience, or maybe even Candace Owens herself, that she's wrong. But anyway, let's keep listening.
People
Let's keep
happy.
going.
So when it comes,
See, what this person did is she went up to the chair and she treated Candace like a respectable human being. She treated her with respect. And that is not something that I would do, okay? Don't get me wrong, I would be like civil or like cordial. But I would not grant her the assumption that she is going to listen to my words and understand them and, like, pontificate on them. Basically what I'm saying is, Candace Owens doesn't give a fuck what this lesbian lesbian in front of me is talking about. She doesn't give a goddamn motherfucker, this they, them ass motherfucker. She does not care. She doesn't give a shit. And, like, it's just obvious. And this person probably realizes that, but is still, like, trying to get their points out there. And I commend that. That's respectable. But, like, still, if you want to change the hearts and minds of audiences and racist motherfuckers like Candace Owens alike, you have to make them take their medicine. Like, you have to, like, embarrass them. You have to debate them, and you have to win, okay? I think that's the only way that some of these motherfuckers will change. And, you know, even then, like, I'm kind of wrong, okay? Because you're not really going to change anyone's mind, for the most part, doing that. But it's potentially, in a setting like this, you can potentially.
I want to
do
teach
that.
this in the public sector. I understand
I think
the
it's a
concern
lot
when it
more
comes
likely
up, what
to
is a
affect the
teacher,
audience.
what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do want the state. I would like.
So obviously, the sexual revolution, when we're talking about this, what this person is saying is correct. Like, it makes sense. The sexual revolution is all about education. It's all about educating people, and starting it off as young as possible, okay, to, like, inform people about this. Okay, like, obviously you need to protect children somewhat from, like, these ideas. You kind of have to, like, you cannot get around the fact that you need to educate children about this, because they're going to get older and they're going to get into, like, you know, the teenager stage, and then, oops, they all gave each other herpes. Okay, that's what fucking happens if you don't educate them. And I know this because of where I'm from, because that shit happened. Okay, I went to college at this one university. I'm not going to say which one. You could probably find out by Google searching this, but my university has the one that I came from. I went to school there. It has the highest STI rate in the country. And I'm telling you, it's because none of them motherfuckers got any kind of sex education at all. Okay, because it is not, it's not taught in school, especially private schools, but even the public schools, the sex education is highly lacking. Okay. And that goes back to the same problem that we have with every other curriculum, every other study that we have in school, various remedials, and that is like teachers being overworked and underpaid. And of course, like, there isn't much emphasis on teaching kids sex education anyway. Like, most parents are like, ew, what the fuck? Like, I don't want my kid learning about that shit. The fuck? You know, send them to private school so they don't have to. That's kind of how it is. But yeah, when you don't educate people about this, that's what happens, and that's what the sexual revolution is about. But my whole point in going off about all of this is that Candace Owens doesn't think that that's what the sexual revolution is about. So there is literally no point in saying any of this to her, because Candace Owens right now, in this very frame, in this very moment of this video, she is like, what the fuck is this they them person talking about? This has nothing to do with the sexual revolution. Sexual revolution is just about women being whores. Like that, like, that's what it is to her, okay? Candace Owens believes, and that is what this premise clearly indicates, that women before the sexual revolution, they weren't whores. Then the sexual revolution happened, wherein the sexual revolution was like all these feminists, and they were like, yeah, like women need to be fucked more, like women need to be fucking. Okay, that's what it was about to her. To her, the sexual revolution was just about like women having more sex more frequently with like Chad or whatever, with fucking alpha male. Or some stupid shit like that. That is unironically what she believes, and that's why it is pointless. It is pointless to try to have this conversation with her. Like, you are trying to have a real conversation when what you should be doing when you sit down in that chair and you're sitting in front of Candace Owens is you should be trying to contradict her, to make her look stupid. That's the point of this. This is a debate. I don't care how you want, like, this is just what it's a shitty debate. It's a shitty way to have a debate, because there's no moderator, there's nothing, like, anybody can just do whatever the fuck, okay, and, like, you don't have much time either. If you don't make your point fast, you'll get voted out, but, like, you cannot have a genuine conversation about this. You can't, it's mind-boggling, I know, but, like, Candace is not going to listen to you. She's not going to learn anything, okay? You have to meet her where she's at if you want to, like, win the argument, if you want to... Because, like, all Candace is going to do here is she's going to be like, well, like, actually, we're not talking about this. We're talking about this. We're talking about how women are all whores now, of course. That's what we're talking about. And maybe she'll try to say, like, oh, actually, like, sex education is the reason why women are so... whorish now. That's why it's happening.
Like the government to
actually
give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay. You consider yourself a feminist, I'm assuming?
Queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist as opposed to a feminist, just so I understand?
Well, like, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, you know, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from colonization. So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico, you know, we have the Moshes in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a queer...
So you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing?
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves.
You don't even think women exist. Yeah, so... I don't know if I really agree with this person about, like it... Well, I mean... Yeah, like, in a way, it is a colonial anomaly, I guess you could. The binary gender, or the idea of gender being a binary was forced upon other cultures by our culture, by the colonizers. So, you know, kind of correct. I don't know if the origin of gender binary is necessarily from colonizers, but I would have to look into that more. I guess I don't really know where the idea of gender binary came from.
So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity. Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long as they're not causing harm. But that's where we get into the debate, what is harm?
So just, again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness. Mm-hmm. You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions. So from masculinity to femininity.
So I'm just saying... Are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution?
So what Candace Owens is saying is, if you are not woman, your opinion don't matter. Like it. What are you saying right now, dude?
I believe all genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course, the sexual revolution was just a good thing, hands down. It was a net positive. You are insane to think that before the sexual revolution, when everybody was ignorant about how sex works, what sex is, and how to, like, do it safely, we were actually better off back then. We were better off when everybody was sexually repressed and had no idea how sex worked. They just had to, like, figure it out. because like nobody would talk about it ever, not in school, not in the home, nowhere. Yep, that's right.
Hello.
I'm Zena.
Zena. Very much like your name.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Can we start with the beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes two things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly
According
sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to just...
Yeah. So, look, what I love that, she's about to cook. They better not vote her out. They better not, dude. She is cooking right now. This is exactly what I was talking about, like, 2 seconds ago, and now she's doing it. Now she...
And
look, she sat down, and she said, So women were devalued by the sexual revolution, right? How? And then Candace, listen to this. Candace knows what's happening.
We're worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes,
I would say that, yeah.
themselves by becoming overtly sexual.
According to who?
That's my claim.
According to me. I'd say that.
I mean, also according to just, and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which that it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that
she's
according
choking.
to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them, and I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free because it was a
Yeah, so what she's talking about here is something that I agree with. It is harder to find a partner. It is harder to do that. Okay, why? Because of material conditions, not because of like whatever fucking stupid bullshit Candace Owens thinks. Okay, it's because it is the buying power of the dollar has decreased like 400% or so. I think actually like 83%. Like 83%, the dollar has been devalued. Okay, and I'm not just talking about inflation. Like that's a different thing. Okay, but like the literal buying power of the dollar is like even accounting for inflation. So like even when you account for the cost of goods going up, right? And the amount of money that most people are getting, the median income, the buying power of the dollar that everybody is getting is like way down since before the sexual revolution. Probably a lot more than 80% at this point. Probably more like 90 to 95 because we're talking about like pre-1970s. And that is when the first recession happened. But not many people talk about that, so I don't know. The 70s recession was kind of boring.
A major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship, certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when the market is throwing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I would say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so I'm just to connect the dots for you, when women are having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So,
yes,
men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay, so you're saying in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. You're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without being tied to other people in the case of family.
I think
no, all women want to be baby
I think there are exceptional
machines,
cases,
baby factories.
but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution. revolution, right? So when we're seeing direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No. Okay. Well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be a
No,
different.
no. Yeah, you are confused. You're confusing two different things. We're talking specifically about Scandinavian countries where people are a lot happier in general. And I think that part of that is because of sex, and they're like, you know, their education is pretty concise, and people are fairly open about talking about sex stuff. You know, it's like what I'm saying is the sexual revolution certainly has had a positive effect on their culture, just like it did ours. However, they have welfare. They have social safety nets. That is the main reason why people are happier there. They have free healthcare, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't look. I think that sex plays a pretty big role in a majority of people's happiness. Maybe not everybody, but a majority of people are like, you know, they seek that out. They want that. They want a sexual relationship, and they want a partner. Okay, but I think that at the end of the day, if you don't have healthcare, if you don't have any assurance, you know, that you're gonna have a place to live, if like maybe you know lose your job or something, yeah, you're gonna be a lot less happy, regardless of whether or not you have a fucking partner. So anyway, that's why like I'm glad that this person brought this up, okay, but they're not really completing the full picture is a little more like broad than just sex
studies.
education.
The point being is that in 2023 there was this
Sexual
massive
norms.
scandal where they recognized that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud, and they were unable to reproduce these studies, and they also found that the data had been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think...
No, that is not true. That I completely fucking disagree with. And that has nothing to do with the sexual revolution. That's a different thing. That's like first wave feminism. It is first and second wave a bit, okay? So, you know, still though, it's kind of like separate, okay? It's kind of a separate thing. But anyway, what she's talking about here, I actually agree with. And I talked about this, I think yesterday I talked about this. I don't know. I'll see if I can find the clip. But, women, look, I'm a male feminist, okay? I'm not afraid to say it. That's right. I'm a male feminist. However, I don't think that women entering the workforce made them happier. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good thing to do. Okay, I think that equity is like generally across the board like a good thing. It's good to make society more equal. And you know, this is true with all things. This is true with men and women as well. So like I'm not saying that like women like shouldn't be in the workforce. I just don't think it makes them happier. I don't think it makes them any fucking happier. Why the fuck would you be happy being in this shit? What the fuck? Like, it goes back to what I always like to tell people. I always say we're all oppressed. We're all oppressed. White men are oppressed by and large. Okay, that is a fact. That is a fact in this country. In the United States of America, white men are oppressed. And that's because all men are oppressed. And all women are oppressed by the ruling class, by the bourgeois. They are the ones responsible for our suffering. And so when women joined the workforce, they suffered. And that doesn't mean that equality is wrong or it's bad or like it shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't have done feminism, okay? Like there were critics of the feminist movement in communist countries. One of them was Vladimir Lenin. Stay with me here, Donut, okay? Vladimir Lenin was highly critical of the feminist movement in the United States. Because what he said was, women aren't really equal to men here in Russia. Okay, but their lives are a lot more pleasant. Like women are a lot happier in Russia. Why? Why is that? Women still they fit their gender roles. They didn't work in factories. They stayed at home. They took care of children. Like, there were very clearly defined gender roles in the USSR. But women were a lot happier, and there wasn't as much domestic violence going on, okay, as there were in the years prior to the Bolshevik Revolution. Why is that? Because the material conditions of the people were met in the USSR to the best of the government's ability. Okay, even in its infancy, the USSR provided welfare and social services to all of its citizens, all of its constituents. Especially if you were a laborer, you were very high priority. Okay, obviously, the ones producing the commodities were highly valued in Russia, which was going through a rapid industrial revolution. But it's interesting that somebody like Lenin, who was always preaching about the equality of all people in society, was so critical of the feminist movement. It's almost like maybe he understood that the feminist movement, women joining the workforce, which is what the feminist movement was all about, he understood that was not going to improve their lives in the way that they thought it would. Being equal to men just means you are equally as oppressed as men, which is better than being more oppressed than men, right? I concede to that. Okay, I play devil's advocate there. I'm not. That's why I clarified that the feminist movement wasn't like a net negative for women. Like it was an improvement. But you go from being in one oppressed class to being equal to another oppressed class, and it's like you're still oppressed. You're still oppressed. Who would have thought? So, anyway, also, Donut, I think that you were saying when I said that white men are oppressed, and obviously that is like, maybe like a hot take, okay? But it's true, and that's not to say that white men are like equally as oppressed as brown people and people of color. We're not, okay? That I'm not disagreeing. Yeah, well, you shouldn't because I'm correct, but yeah, I mean, like if we're gonna have like conservatives call this the oppression Olympics. And I think that there is like a metric to oppression. I don't really know what the units of oppression would be called, but anyway, certainly people of color are more oppressed than white people. However, white people still be working class. There still be like working class white people, and the truth is that working class people are all exploited, regardless of the color of their skin. So that's my point, and that's why whatever Candace Owens was talking about before this was so fucking
feminist
stupid.
Umbrella
I can't
were
remember.
really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves.
Yeah, so she's saying that well, women be in the workforce and they not be happy, and it's like, yeah, like. That doesn't mean that it was bad. It's still equity is still good, no matter what. Okay, like making society a more equal place is better, hands down. Okay, and anyway, it's just that if you want to say why are women more unhappy now because of feminism, it's like, okay, why? Oh, because they be working, they be exploited. Well, why are we exploiting people? Why are laborers being exploited by capitalists? Why are we allowing that to happen? Oh, well, meritocracy, and you just need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and shut the fuck up.
We could,
Just
I
shut
think,
the fuck
reasonably
up.
expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be a good thing
right? But we would
look
have
at.
to, I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone's happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in society.
That's what I'm getting at. So
Right,
I
but
think
we have to
in our-
look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we could objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally. That's not a sign that us entering the workforce suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it a
happy.
cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this
We're
cause
taking
of the
opioids at a
entry-
higher rate?
Wait,
Increased marginally.
This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally.
That was a lie. That was a lie. Statistically unchanged. In the 50s, it was 5.6 per 100,000. Now it is 5.9. So actually, that is one more person in every 330,000, I believe. So now one more woman in every 330,000 are killing themselves now. That's a pretty big change.
Not a sign that
that's a huge change.
us entering the workforce suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it a
happy.
cause of the workforce?
We're
That's
also
so funny.
binge drinking
That's
at a
so
higher
funny.
rate.
How's this
We're
cause of
taking
Notice how once Candace Owens starts lying, once she starts just straight up telling lies, and it appears like she's dominating the conversation because she's lying, everybody throws their flag up.
opioids at a higher rate.
That's the
How's this
problem
cause
with
Because I
this.
think women are being put on
See, what that means is a person like Candace Owens, if they're ever in the hot seat, if they're ever put on the spot by their opponent, they can just make up a bunch of fucking lies, and then their opponent gets voted out. Okay.
pathway, aspirational.
And yeah,
You
they
have
look
to-
bad
you're saying
in the
you think
final
this, right?
edit,
But where
but
is where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating claims. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great
they
job.
should not have done
Great
that.
job.
They should not have done that. Yeah, she did do a great job, and you know it.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm Nikki.
She
Nice
tried
meet
to
you.
get back
So when
in.
we're talking about the value of women
It's funny.
on a societal scale and how we view each other, right? When you're devaluing us, you're objectifying us. And follow me, I promise. But rape rates have gone down by about half in the last 20 years, right? So if you're saying we're less valuable now, why wouldn't we be suffering at a higher rate?
So is the argument that you're making, just so I understand, that because women are giving up sex for free, they're not being raped?
Every study shows rape is not correlated with just sexual gratification. It is a power structure.
Okay.
So it is about objectifying and abusing women when you rape them, not about whether or not you want sex. What I am saying is that women are less objectified, so therefore we are being raped less.
Okay, so you think that in today's society, because this is pretty wild for me. In the 1950s, you're saying women were more objectified than today in the land of OnlyFans, the Kardashian clan, and women that are essentially putting up their boobs and butts for free on Instagram. You're saying we finally have achieved less objectification, where women can't even get onto an advertising. You can't even advertise a bag without them having to be naked in order for them to get a career as a model. You're saying, oh great, we've achieved actually less objectification.
So I'm not trying to suggest that I think that the over-commodification of women's bodies is positive. But what I am saying is that when you're going to the 1950s, that we shouldn't put this glazed look of, oh, it was so happy, we had single income households and we got to stay home. We also had a pill popping problem. We also were viewed as maids. Like, we were seen as a house appliance far more than we were as people. And so when you have that kind of objectification where you are in a subservient position, I think we're facing a different form today. But I think that rape is a signifier of a contradiction to your statement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, but I do want to rebut it on a couple of points. So first, I just want to say, suggesting that objectification has gone downward since the 1950s is wild. That's just a firm no. That is not the truth, and you know that's not true.
Wait, so do you feel
But
like
hold on,
we
let
were
me
seen as
answer your
like-
second thing.
Okay.
Second thing, you then brought up, okay, women were at home, but they were pill popping. Well, you then have to acknowledge we're actually popping more pills now, right? So we have actually increased our amount of pill popping. Women are having overdoses on opioids. And on top of that, since I think 1999, by rate, we are increasing our opioid use compared to men. So women are not popping pills less because we're going into the workforce. That's actually not true at all either. We're also, like I said to you, consuming alcohol more and binge drinking more than we did in the 1950s, which is why I was trying to get her to say we need to look at actually a reasonable, give me any reasonable metric of how we can define happiness, because it's hard, right?
She's
Are you happy? Yes
letting
or
her
no?
stop her, dude. Say something.
Wait, hold on. We're actually avoiding what my original point was about rape being the signifier.
You got
Okay,
this.
pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Hi,
I like your hat.
Whitney Shanahan. Nice to meet you. I am fascinated by your claim that women have lost happiness since
Good
the
start.
sexual revolution since the 1950s. Do you think that there is any tie to happiness and freedom and happiness and choice? Because since 1950s, since the sexual revolution, women have gotten exponentially more freedom and more choice. And for me, as a mother and as a woman, having the freedom to choose what I do, to make my own destiny, makes me infinitely more happy than, say, back before the sexual revolution, when I couldn't get a bank account, couldn't get a home loan, couldn't work outside the home, couldn't travel around without a man, couldn't control my own reproduction. So I feel that happiness, personally, my belief, is tied to our ability to have freedom. And I think that in the United States, protecting freedom and our individual freedoms is what's going to lead us to happiness.
Did you go to college?
That's a pretty good
Absolutely.
point.
Okay, great.
Did you?
Yes, I did. So you have a degree.
Absolutely.
Now, when you went to college, did you go to college because it was simply something that you wanted to do, or did you think that I have to go to college because in order to get a job, I have to have a college degree?
I went to college for art because I was fascinated with art.
Okay.
Typical.
Just answering my question, did you go to college? Was that the only reason you went to college, or did you think that I might want to do something in art, so I have to go to college, like for my career?
I went to school because I wanted to expand
learn.
my horizons.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why most people go to university. Why
So
did
that's
you
actually,
go?
That's actually not
Why
true.
did you go?
I went, and I think a lot of people go because there's a pressure that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So
Okay.
taking away choices doesn't make people happier. Taking away freedom doesn't make people happier.
I'm disagreeing with you on the idea that people are feeling more free by financial pressure. I think financial pressure makes people feel remarkably less free.
So you want no bank accounts again? Women not to have credit cards?
I'm
no
not
bank
saying that
accounts?
women shouldn't have access to credit cards or bank accounts. You're putting
Okay.
words in my mouth, so why don't you respond to the words that I'm saying?
Well, less financial pressure. If I don't have a bank account, that's a lot less financial pressure, I guess, right?
Financial pressure in terms of most people that go to college, and I'm counting myself among them, it's because typically in order to get the job that you're being sold is going to make you infinitely happier and infinitely more free, it just requires a college degree. And most of these people, to be clear, have to put themselves, the majority of people have to put themselves into debt. And I don't think anybody would describe debt as a form of freedom, right? I don't think anybody would realistically say...
Let's get back to happiness. So
No,
we're
no.
here to talk about happiness
but you-
and how the sexual revolution...
So I guess what Candace is saying here is like women be going to college and that's why they're unhappy because they're becoming educated. What the fuck? What the fuck is she saying here? Am I not understanding? Like am I misreading what she's saying? I don't think so. I don't think so. Anyway, I also like disagree with what she said about women and not women. I mean like people going to college and doing it because you know they want the job or whatever. That's like part of it, okay? But a majority of people that put in the time and effort and take on all that debt to go to college, they are doing it because they enjoy what they are studying. They want to have the job that where they do the thing that they want, that they enjoy studying, okay? Like that's it. That's why motherfuckers go to school for the most boringest shit to me. The shit that it's like so fucking boring, like anthropology. Like they go to school for that shit, okay? I think that shit is fucking boring, okay? Humans grew agriculture, boom, that's it. That's pretty much it, okay? That's like the whole thing. But anyway, I just like the idea though that like women going to college and becoming educated has actually made them that's what's made them less happy is so fucking delusional. Anybody with a brain that is capable of thinking is like that is so obviously like not the case. Like, yeah, I'm sure that if women weren't allowed to go to college, that would like make them so happy. That would make them so fucking happy, dude. Yeah, I'm sure.
And we're not talking about college debt. I think it's important because we're talking about freedom. You just said that the reason why I feel happy is because I have more freedom. And I am saying that financial restraints and debt doesn't make people feel more free.
So let's eliminate the debt. Let's eliminate college debt. Maybe we should have free college here in the U.S. That's
Yep. And anyway, that's a good point. It is off topic, okay? But if you're going to say that like women are unhappy because the school system is fucked up, then okay, so the answer is to remove women from the school system? No, dumbass. The answer is to fix the fucking schools. What the goddamn are you going on about? Like, oh, we have to protect women. We have to take them out of school. We have to. They can never learn. They can never learn anything.
That's a great idea, Candace. I love that idea.
Okay.
Love it.
It's woke.
Champion for the people, girl.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Very nice.
All right, return to your seat.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen. Search Surrounded.
Women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
Okay, no career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as as raising children. Okay, I want to point something out here. Raising children should not be a full-time job for anyone. That is a torture I wouldn't wish on anyone. And fuck no, it's not as fulfilling as a career. What the what in the goddamn are you smoking, man? What? What, you think hanging around little snot-nosed, little shit-eating children are gonna make you happy? No, that doesn't make anyone happy. What the fuck are we talking about? But anyway, what I'm going to say about this, and like, I don't know if I'll have much more to add after this. Okay, this is pretty cut and dry. These things are not mutually exclusive. Raising children, you can raise children and have a job. You can do both. It is possible, believe it or not. You want to know why? Because, again, raising kids does not have to be a full-time job. I'm a man, right? I'm like, one day I'm gonna be a dad. I'm gonna have a bunch of little stupid ass kids that I hate, and like, I'm gonna spend no time with them. I'm just gonna focus on my career, because that's what you do as a man, right? No, that's so stupid. Like, and also, like, I don't think Candace Owens would agree with that. Like, men are dads, okay? Men raise children. We do. We help out. We help out with it, okay? We do be doing that. And we work, okay? Men work, and they still be dads, okay? Like, what I'm saying is, these things, like I said, are not mutually exclusive. You can have a career, and you can have children. Crazy, I know. Crazy. I don't know. Let's see what these guys say. Oh, hey, well, she's back. Yo, she needs to go up there. The woman in the blue.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John. Okay, so
yo, we love her.
Like a lot of your arguments today are very rooted in a sort of
she's a Hasanabi
old school perspective. I have to be honest. Like, I think, and I'm not.
Oh, really? Yo, this guy is about to mansplain feminism.
Trying to be insulting whatsoever. I feel as though most people would identify that claim as pretty extreme and pretty like.
Children are extreme?
Well, no, that women would get more happiness inherently from raising kids than having a job or deciding what they want to do with their lives.
Why is that? I'm just curious. Why would having children, which is just a natural biological conclusion, be something that sounds extreme?
I just said inherently.
Well, inherent.
That's the
extreme.
inherent expectation.
Yeah.
That's better for.
It's inherent because it's biological. So I think when we think about things that are inherent, I think biology is a good thing to start with, right? So biologically speaking, men and women come together, they form families, and that's the reason why you're sitting here. That's the reason that I'm sitting here, is because biology is inherent.
Well,
so I was saying it's just natural order that we're speaking about, right?
Okay, let's break it down. So why do you believe that?
Yeah.
Why do you believe that?
Yeah, women are just they're happier when they're
happier. Yeah.
When they're fucking just baby ovens.
I think because it speaks to natural order, and every piece of life I think is enriched by children.
You don't think it's natural for women to get to decide what they want to do with their lives?
I do not think that saying women can decide whether or not they want to go to work or have children is problematic. What I'm saying to you is that women will get the most fulfillment from having a family.
Because it's natural.
it's natural, but also children are wonderful and beautiful and spiritually divine creatures. I mean, they're amazing. There's everything about having a child. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's beautiful.
I hear that. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, what if there's a little girl born and it's her dream her entire life to be an author or to be, on TV or any of these things, and having children
Jacob
is very
before he
expensive.
cut
It
his
takes a lot
hair?
of time. So
I did
how is it
never
better
had
for
a
that,
haircut
and I
looking
understand
like
it's
that.
hypothetical, but that hypothetical little
Do
girl
not hit me with that
to have
accusation
children
again.
and to pursue these things that would
That's
make her happy
crazy.
as she gets
I
older.
just think that if
This
she
guy is
publishes
just
the
like
book
me
and she
for
has a
real.
child, she would agree with me that the child was more fulfilling and made her happy. That's what I'm happier than the book did, is what I'm saying. And I say this as a published author of New York Times. I would choose my children over my best-selling book. And I was that little girl who had a dream that, like, oh, it would be really great if I could share my thoughts and ideas in a book. But it is utter insanity for me to reflect on that and say that I would have rather published Blackout than to have my 3 children.
But why is it rather? You see what I'm saying?
It's not rather. I'm just saying
Well, that's
that
your claim.
it will.
That's your claim, is that it's better.
It will be more fulfilled.
Yeah. That is what you're saying, Candace, and so you're not practicing what you preach. If you are to say that women will get more fulfillment out of being mothers, why aren't you just being a mother? Wouldn't that be the most fulfilling thing for you to do? Candace, yeah. Yeah, I'd be saying
So
Candace,
rather.
man.
Well, if
That's
it's an
what I'd
either
call
or,
it.
if you're saying it's an either or, I'm just saying that if these 2 things have happened in your life,
I hope
the
you
thing that will bring you
understand
more
why. I
spiritual
hope-
fulfillment will be children. And so
I
women
don't-
who
I
are
don't know if
neglecting
you
that, who are
know.
neglecting the pathway
I don't know how much
to
you know about
strive
this
toward
person.
family because they think their career is going to hug them at night, or they think that when they're on their deathbed, their career is going to come up next to them and say, "You were so great to me." I think that they've stepped into
I
a delusion,
despise
and
her.
I'm
Me
hopeful
too, man.
that they wake up from it before it's too late.
All right, pause.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah, that guy sucked. Boo. We hate male feminists. Yes, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Oh
Okay,
shit.
so currently, women make up about 47% of the workforce. If this were the case and that women were just
Sit
inherently
your ass
unhappy
down and
or
listen.
unfulfilled working and would just prefer to be at home,
A woman of color is
Because
speaking.
we've made that due to prior feminist waves nearly impossible
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's
now,
her.
which I believe that the reason that the government wanted
She's a
women
Hassan
to enter the
Abihed.
workforce is because it gave them an opportunity to tax a household twice. And
She's
so
a
this goes back
terrorist
to what I was
supporter.
saying, is that there's a lot of financial pressure that is being exerted on young women to enter the
There are a
workforce,
number
and
of
they do
reasons
so.
more women entered the workforce: the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of '78, access to birth control, recognition of sexual harassment in the workplace, and the ability of women to apply for a line of credit without a male co-signer starting in 1974. It's crazy that was
Blindly under this illusion that somehow
1974,
entering the
dude.
workforce is going to make
Women
you more fulfilled.
could-
Like getting
women
yourself
had no
into
credit. They
6
all
figures
had
of debt,
zero
going
credit
to college
score.
to then take on a career
crazy.
and be in debt and having to pay student loans while you make $35K is going to make you happier. And I'm saying that isn't actually true.
Okay, so I hear that.
Yeah.
At the same time, would you not agree that that women can both have a career and have children? I mean, you are actively doing that right now.
And I want to be very clear because I'm actively doing it right now. I would be someone that you would call an exception because I get to work from home. I get to wake up in the morning. I don't have a boss, right? I don't have to go into the office from 9 to 5. I get to then therefore spend the entire morning with my children.
So you're an exception, and the 47% of women that make up our labor force are also an exception?
No, the exact opposite. So I'm trying to make it more realistic because I think it's really bad form when people who are able to stay at home, right, and are able to start working at 1:00 p.m. as I do after being around their children. The children are running around all day. Will then preach to you that every woman can have this. That's not the reality. The reality is that the overwhelming majority of people are stuck behind a desk all day and they're not happy. They're not doing work that gratifies them at all. And at the same time, they're suspending.
Well, that's
their,
just what career you've chosen. But I think that the issue
most
with
people
your
work a 9 to 5. I think that's
okay,
the
yes,
reality,
but
right?
if it's the
Okay.
job that is making them unhappy, then maybe they should have chosen a different career path and not the structure of the career itself. But my issue with this is that not only is it claiming that women can't both be mothers and have jobs, which we know to be true because millions of women do that. My mother does that. You are actively doing it right now. But it also is qualifying what every single woman in this country wants without any clear evidence. I mean, there's 169 million women in this country. How can you say that you
Put
know
those flags
exactly
down.
what every woman secretly wants? Are you asking them?
That wasn't my claim that I secretly know what every single woman wants. I'm saying that if you measure up at the end of your life, what brought you more fulfillment,
she said
your career,
you know
or a
what
child,
every
children,
woman
raising children in your
secretly
family.
wants, not that you
we will discover
know
that, and
secretly.
there actually have been studies. People that have gone to people on their deathbeds, and the number one regret that people have was that they gave too much to their careers, and this includes men, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's
Too much work is the number 2 regret. behind not living a true life to yourself.
True. I mean, of course, human relation is going to be valued over money and profit.
So then
but
you
at
don't
the same
disagree
time,
with-
what
you
does
don't
that
disagree
even?
with my argument
I do
at all.
disagree with
We're
your
agreeing with my
Yes,
argument.
humans prefer humans over a job, but that's not just singular to women. That's everyone. And my question is, what does that even have to like? What is the goal of that? Should every woman quit working and just have a child?
Well, I'm just trying to warn you that if you decide to suspend that pursuit of family because you think that you have to first climb the ladder, a lot of women make that mistake and they don't end up finding a
But
partner.
that's their right. It's free will.
You
We
will
live in a
definitely
free
have a right
country.
to make
You
a
don't get to
mistake.
say what people should and shouldn't do.
I don't think my claim is this is
Nah,
what people
you
should or
can.
should not do. I'm just
I
simply
disagree
stating
with
that my
that.
claim is that you will be more fulfilled if you focus on
You don't
trying
get to decide
build
what
a
other
family.
people are fulfilled by.
Okay, I am making my claim here that women are infinitely more fulfilled in the household and raising children than they are taking that 9-to-5 job.
But you have no evidence of that. In fact, you are evidence against your own claim.
I'm not evidence against my own claim.
You are.
I'm saying
You're at work right now.
I've literally said, I am telling you, women cannot have it all. That is an illusion, and that is an illusion that is stressing women out. And I think it is the reason why so many women are turning to popping pill, why there's been such a significant, more than 1,000% increase
But
since
men can have it all.
1999.
Men can be fathers and have a job, but women can't do that.
I don't think you can have it all.
It
no.
sounds like you're devaluing women. I think that women can do
No,
everything
it
that a man
sounds like
can
women
do,
do
and men have done this
I
historically.
think that she is devaluing men as fathers, okay? Weirdly enough, that is what she's doing here, okay? Like, I'm not saying it's not misogynistic as well. It is misogynistic, okay? But, yeah, I mean, she's basically saying, like, yeah, men don't raise children. Men just be going to work, and that's what they like to do. They don't like to fucking fuck around with the kids. And it's just like, it's not true. Like, men do enjoy spending time with their children. Men should have the opportunity to spend more time with their children, but they don't because of society, because of the fucking structure, the economic superstructure that we live under. Capitalism, which constantly looms over us. Okay, men do not have free time. No, women don't have free time. Nobody has any free time, man. Nobody's having kids because nobody has any free time. Everybody's poor, and we're all exploited laborers. Nobody has time or money or anything or assets. Nobody has anything. Okay, that's why. That's why this is
women
happening.
is our debate topic today.
It's not because
women
be
exist in a society
whores.
with men. We are comparing
Women are trying
Dumb
to be
fuck.
both women and men, and that is why women are unhappy today. Is because actually, what's quite ironic about the feminist movement is that
I think women are just trying to be people.
I think women have been taught that being a woman is not enough, and that you have to also aspire to be a man, and that's the irony. It's like a psychological conditioning. What feminists went out and did and said is that in order for women to have value, women need to be like men. And I'm
Okay,
saying that
Candace, can I
actually women
propose a
and men are
hypothetical?
biologically different. There are differences in our behavior. There are differences in our desires, and I think evidence of the feminist movement, by the way, shows us that, because even when women enter into the college education space, the pathways of career that we choose are different from men because we're biologically different, right?
Okay, so let's say that this is true, that women truly are more fulfilled at home. Now, the average cost of raising a child a year is around $21,000 or more. So my issue is, are you saying that women should just suddenly stop working and now the onus is entirely on men? Like, the society that you're pitching is not sustainable economically.
It was,
and I think
it was sustained economically.
but it's not right
All
now.
right, pause.
currently.
Naima, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hi, I'm Ceci.
I think that she could have done better. I think that was not her best work. I still really respect that. I forgot her name. My bad. But I think she did a pretty good job there. Yeah, I really liked her against fucking Charlie Kirk when she went up against Charlie Kirk. That was pretty good. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, true. But still though, I liked it. I think she's been in a lot of these, man. Like this wasn't her second time. This wasn't her third time. I want to say this is like the fourth time I've seen her in one of these things. So.
She claims that women will be
Candace
happier at home.
Owens,
I think
back
you're
at it
conflating,
again.
though, happiness with importance, because I get what you're saying, where a woman can write a book and have kids, but the kids are always going to make her happier. But I think it just means that kids are always going to be more important, not necessarily make you happier. But also, piggybacking on Naima, we don't live in an economy where people typically can have a one-income household,
right?
Whether it be the mom or dad that stays home. And so I think, and you keep bringing up the 1950s, which
this was right before the fact.
I just don't know if that's the period of time that you want to go back to.
No, I'm just going back to the first wave of feminism.
You want to undo progress that's been done. So I'm curious as to what decade you'd be comfortable living in, especially as a black woman.
Okay, so we're gonna park aside the race politics because I want to focus on
Okay, then as a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was fulfilling.
But some women still do understand that, right?
Yo, that
a lot of women,
face
and
she
I'm one of
made,
them.
that
And I'm
was
here
so
advocating
disrespectful.
for you
That
to
was
be
so
able to live the life that you want, and for other
See,
women
that's
to live
the shit that I'd be doing. That's what I mean when I say I would get kind of disrespectful with it. Like, did you see that face she made?
Children
Like-
was.
Yo, dude, that is evil. That is evil shit. I play it again. Hell yeah,
As a
man.
woman,
I'll
what
play
period
it.
of time do you
I'll
wanna go
play
back
that
to?
shit again.
Just as a woman,
I love
think
this
that
shit.
it
Let me
was
play it at
probably
normal speed. Actually, let's see that at normal rate.
A better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was.
Oh, girl.
Some women still do understand that.
Right. And
A
that's-
lot of women
and I'm
still
one of
understand
them.
that.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I'm
they
here
remember.
advocating for you
Yeah.
to be able to live the life that you
Yeah,
want,
ask
and
them.
for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
Go
No.
ask a
Okay.
grandma. Go ask her.
Okay, what do you work?
Hey,
what do
dude, you
work
want
in?
to like go back to
Wonderful.
living like
So,
that? You want to?
I have both children and a career, as somebody pointed out, and so the fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, "Wow, I really crushed it dyeing somebody's hair
Yeah,
today."
of course. Everybody feels that way. You're not. It's not because you're a woman. It's not because you're a special little woman, and that, bro. Oh, I was wondering what that noise was. Yeah. Everybody cares about their children more than their fucking job. What the fuck? What the fuck? Do you think men just like love their jobs? So when men are on their deathbed, they're like, "Oh, I wish I had worked more." Like, no, dude. This is just how it is. Okay, we are human. We're all human. Okay, we all like our children. Okay, we all like the children that we give birth to, that we create. Okay, everybody, not just women. So.
What is it
Yeah,
exactly?
I don't
that
even
makes you
remember what
angry
they were
hearing
talking
that?
about.
Like, that's what I'm actually
Nothing makes
trying to
me
get.
angry.
I'm trying to get to the implicit
But
revolution.
that's the thing, is that no one
when
is
someone
angry.
mentions children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children, or you're trying to impose a lifestyle onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast, every time you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
Yes.
No, that's what it is. Because
Actually,
without feminism,
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But it's just the
it
truth.
just shows that you haven't done the research to even understand where the
Or you don't know.
What? Yo, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, man. Yo, okay. So, what she's saying is, like, feminism didn't allow me to do this. Feminism didn't allow me to do... Are really feminine? So, without the feminist movements of yesterday, of old, you would still, as a woman, a woman of color, mind you, but put the race politics aside, put the race politics aside. You think that you, as a woman, would be able to have a podcast where you could broadcast your message to millions of people? Are you high? Are you high, Candace Owens?
That's what I'm saying
she
about you,
looks
because it
like
means that
she
you don't
is
understand
on that
a bunch of
special
government
K
officials in the
right
CIA
now. That's
funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the
the CIA funded organizations associated with feminist movement, including the Independent Research Service founded by Gloria Steinem. Yeah, Steinem. Of course they did. Of course they fucking did. Are you kidding me? That's your big reveal, is like the CIA. Wait, what did she say? Why did they pull up this fact
Your
check? Let me
podcast,
see
every time
this.
you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is.
Actually,
because without feminism, you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But it's just the
it
truth.
just shows that you
Well,
haven't done the research.
she would still exist. She just, wouldn't have a career or rights as a human if there were no civil, if there were no, what the fuck, what? Yo, I can't even think right now.
To even understand where the
Or you don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means
Civil
that you don't
rights
understand
to-
that a bunch of government officials in the
I'm
CIA
so
funded
sorry,
the feminist
dude, but
movement. So
my
for
brain
all of
is
your
rotted,
that
okay?
you haven't done the research to even understand where the
Or you don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means that you don't
I
understand.
was trying
that
to
a
think of the civil rights movement. That's what my brain was.
bunch of government
trying to-
officials
I'm-
in the
I'm
CIA
fucking
funded the
stupid.
feminist movement.
Funded the feminist
So
movement.
for all of your hatred for the patriarchy,
I'm so confused.
and
So
speaking
my
out
question
men,
is it bad that they
men
funded it or
wanted-
bad that it just happened?
Men wanted women.
Okay, so I kind of already explained this a little bit earlier, okay? But the reason that the CIA funded, and this is true, the CIA did do this, and it's like, but the CIA is usually, like, nefarious and whatnot, like, right, Jacob? So, like, why were they doing that? Why were they funding feminism movements? Feminism, good, right? Feminism was a good thing. Well, think about what I said earlier about women and feminism and what Vladimir Lenin thought about that. What did Vladimir Lenin think about that? See, I don't think I said this, but what Vladimir Lenin thought about feminism overall, he felt like it was a bad thing because it served the interest of the capitalist. Okay, what do I mean by that? What did Vladimir Lenin mean by that? Well, if women suddenly are able to join the workforce alongside men, that means that there's a ton of new workers entering the workforce. And yeah, the capitalists are going to be frothing at the mouth over that. So, yes, it served the interest of capital to allow women to join the workforce. And so then the question is, well, why were women oppressed in the first place then, Jacob? Why was it like that if it was like better for capitalists? And the answer is that I think that the patriarchy is a remnant of pre-capitalism. Okay, it is a replication of the average organized familial structure of like pre-industrial age. Okay, so like what I mean by that is back in the day in the colonies, okay, you had husband, wife cooked, husband farmed, blah blah blah. Like that's how it worked. Okay, that was the structure, that was like godly, that was how they did it. Okay, that structure carried over into the new economic structure that the founding fathers designed. Okay, that being capitalism. Okay, so that like was like grandfathered in. That familial structure was grandfathered into capitalism, is what I'm saying. But it didn't benefit the capitalist, which is why the CIA funded it. Because look, never forget, I say this over and over again, the CIA, they are cops. They are cop number one, okay? They are the top cops, okay? They're the number one cops. And cops, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say, cops serve the capitalist only. Okay, the job of a cop is to maintain the hierarchy, okay, the capital totem pole. Keep rich people rich, keep poor people poor. Okay, what does that mean? It means protect the assets of rich people. Okay, our laws are centered around doing this. Okay, protecting what the rich people own and not so much what the poor people own. Let's be real. Okay, cops don't really give a fuck if somebody breaks into your house and steals your shit. Okay, they'll come and file a report, but they're not gonna look into that shit. But if somebody robs a bank, if somebody fucking robs a bank and steals a ton of money, like even if no one dies, which is unlikely because the cops are gonna shoot that bitch up to try and stop the criminals. But even if no one dies, like, they will hunt you mercilessly if you rob a bank. They will hunt you to the end of the earth. They will exhaust. No stone will be left unturned if you rob a rich man. But if you rob a poor man, it's not the same. But anyway, that's why the CIA was interested in feminism, okay? It wasn't for anything other than serving the interest of capital. That's it. Okay? Again, that doesn't mean that feminism bad. Feminism just terrible, okay?
To go into the workforce, the government, which had a lot of men, it was being...
Are you talking about...
But let's not get it confused here. The CIA did not... I can't believe I'm saying this. The CIA did not fund feminism to make society more equitable, okay? To make things more equal for women, okay? That is ludicrous.
As World War II occurred and we had to go to factories, and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what I'm saying, and then you can respond to it.
Go for it.
Gloria Steinem is considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests. She also had a bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more...
This is the funniest thing about conservatives, dude. They are so close to being woke. They are always just a few centimeters off of being woke, okay? Like you're almost there. You're almost just like keep the thought train going, Candace. But she won't, okay? She will stop the thought train in her mind because like if it keeps going, then it's going to drive off a cliff. It's going to crash her entire worldview. Okay, that's what's going to happen.
That they wanted to encourage women to enter.
Well, I have to be honest with you, I couldn't speak on behalf of the government. Okay. You know what I mean, and what their intention.
I think it's
because the next question would be, well, why was the CIA doing that? Was it because they hate women and they want women to be whores and they want women to just like fuck all the time and fuck Chad and alpha male? Like, no, man, I don't think the CIA gave a fuck about any of that, okay? I wonder what they did give a fuck about. I don't know. That's a really tough question.
Because you just said that I don't know history, and I think it's pretty important if you're going to sit across from me and say I don't know history, that you learn a piece of history and then question as...
You keep bringing up men, and I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times more likely to kill themselves.
Which is why
And while women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
Because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much as women now emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us how to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering. Women are too, but emotionally. When they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with.
Society.
That's the feeling they go to first in most situations.
Right,
so we need to stop telling our boys that they don't cry, because they do. They just do it alone, and then they become even more alone.
Yeah, I get why they voted her out. She just started rambling, like, like what? Okay, sure. Like, I don't know how you managed to turn this into a men's rights thing. Like nobody thinks about the men, but she did. And I don't know. Like I get it. Like you were trying to fight Candace Owens, debate her. Okay, that's great. I love that. I don't like her either. But still, that just wasn't relevant at all. It wasn't not even a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe she had an overarching thing going on there that I didn't pick up on.
Okay, so you say that women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce or getting educated, but that just really doesn't bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores, getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college-educated women are least likely to get divorced, and they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely.
I didn't know that, and I'll be honest with you, man. That shit don't make any sense to me, because if I became educated, I don't think that would make me want to marry a man more. I don't think that would. I think I'd probably be like, Like, I don't know, like this, like I'm like a educated person, and I'm like critically thinking about this right now, and marrying a man doesn't really seem like a good idea. I don't know. I don't get it. I guess I believe it. I guess
To
there's no
report being
fact check
depressed.
on
They're more
the
likely to
side.
report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that? Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be
Please.
amazing.
where's the
Okay,
fact
because
check?
I know,
Where's
like
the
I said,
fact check?
I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was.
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
Right,
University of
okay.
California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
Wait,
They spend
wait.
more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending debunked, and it was.
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
Right,
University of
okay.
California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more.
That don't make no fucking sense to me. I don't think that I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. Look, women be working, and it's not that it's bad that women are working. It's bad that we're all working and we all have to work all the time, or we get kicked out on the street and have no amenities and like starve to death on the sidewalk, okay? Like that's the fucked up part about society. Okay, I was a little hyperbolic there, but like, yeah, it's cruel, it's terrible, it's a terrible thing. Becoming homeless is awful. And I've talked about how I was homeless before, and I was, and it was not a pleasant experience. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get myself out of it. But most people, they don't have that opportunity. Anyway, all that is to say is, like, I just, like, all of these people keep coming up to Candace, and they, like, try to argue with her about how, no, actually, like, women are happier because they're working. And no, man. No, you're missing it. You're totally missing the mark here. Like, they're not. Women are not happier working. What the fuck? Nobody's happier working with this shit. With the fucking jobs that we have to work in this country. And with the constant anxiety of what will happen if you lose your job. Yeah, no, it's not. Nobody's happier. Okay, nobody. It's not women. It's not a women man
time
thing.
with their children
It's
and the people
it's
who are
everybody.
at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
And by the way, like I think, and you know, you may call me a conspiracy nut for this, but I think it is it is by design that we are even talking about this, okay? Remember this. You may disagree with me that this isn't what's happening here, okay? But always remember, the bourgeois, the ruling class, they will do anything to divide us. They will do anything to divide workers. Anything. And that includes gender roles. That includes, look, women are workers, men are workers. I'm telling you, the ruling class right now, what they're all thinking is, how can we divide them? How can we split? How can we make them fight each other? This conversation is one of those things. Okay, the very fact that we're having this conversation is that it's just an attempt at division. Okay. It is a distraction from the reality, which is that women are now, because of feminism, in the same boat as men. We are in the same position. And shit sucks. Raises flag, your time is up. JK, I wish you were on there. Yo, maybe I should apply. I don't know.
Build.
How do you get on this show? I don't even know. It'd be kind of
No,
crazy.
it's not obvious because I said so.
I would be like because I'm an e-celebrity, I'm an internet person, I'm a political commentator, I would be the one, you know, making the topics and sitting there and debating. It would be like a one woke-tard versus versus 20 Republicans, and I would be the woke one. But I don't know. I don't know what my premises would be. I really don't. I don't know. I'd probably, I'd pick some shit about Israel. I want to talk to some Republicans about that. Let's do that. That's what I would do. They'd be like, I 100% agree with you because I hate Jewish people. Because I hate the evil Jewish nation must be destroyed. Yeah. And then the other Republicans would be like, how dare you? You're anti-Semitic. How dare you? It'd be funny. Were you ever pro-Israel? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, hey, never mind.
It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing
right
not
now.
to have
I don't want
families,
to have to
they
like
are, as
edit the
person
video.
who just
I'm
had
gonna
it before you
upload this
mentioned,
reaction.
They are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety, and
That's not true.
Okay, it is true.
No,
it is
don't
actually
say that.
true
Do
that
it.
women who are
Okay, all right. So, there's a paper that I wrote when I was 15, and remind me about it. Okay, I'm not gonna read it right now. It's funny as fuck. It's just as like evil as you're probably envisioning it being. But yeah, I wrote a paper. I believe it was about Trump's wall. Okay, this was back in 2015 or like 2016. And I was like pro-wall. Okay, I was like pro-Trump wall. Okay, and anyway, it's like funny looking back on it, but anyway, the reason I brought it up is why did I bring it up? Oh yeah, I was pro-Israel. Yeah, I talk about Israel in this paper. It's kind of crazy.
Are choosing their careers over starting.
By the way, I back when I was pro-Israel, I couldn't have pointed to Israel on a fucking map. I didn't know where the fuck it was. I don't, if somebody asked me to point to the Middle East on a map, I don't think I could have done that. I don't know, but probably. But
Many families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family.
Let me go back.
To higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is it obvious? Because you said
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression, they're suffering from more anxiety.
And that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women...
Recent data on this topic is scarce, but CDC data shows that from 2015 to 2018, women were more than twice as likely to take antidepressants than men, and antidepressant use was more common among those with college degrees. Okay. So there is nothing. There's no statistic. It's a fucking, it's stupid to fucking talk about this shit generally because, like, women be individuals. Women be individual people, and individual people be wanting different things, okay? Which is what, like, these women, or, I'm sorry, these feminists, not all of them are women, they keep coming up there and saying that, and Candace Owens is like, no, like, all women, you don't understand, like, all women just want to, like, make babies and raise babies, and it's just, like, you're not gonna break through with her with that, okay? Like, I'm not saying that this person is wrong for using that attack vector, because it is, I think, as an audience member, like, Candace Owens is, like, you know, she's sweating right now, like, against this person.
Women who are choosing their
In particular.
careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family because they were instead pursuing their careers.
Then why are
there
they
has
better
been
off?
it is a dishonest, it's totally a dishonest narrative that men and women want the same things out of life. We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we don't even measure success the same. Men and women don't even measure success the same.
So,
okay?
but tell me how the women who are working and getting educated, why are they faring off better in all of these?
I am telling you that I do not believe they are faring off better in all of these metrics.
And
I do not.
Because of what?
I am telling you that we are looking at totally opposite statistics. Like, so you're sitting here telling me that the statistics show that women who are working are producing better children. And I am saying that women that grow up in a two-family home where the mother stays at home are faring off better than the children who are being raised in an environment
where the
both
women
of
are
parents-
working?
Where both of the parents are
why don't
working
you
away
stay
from the
home?
home. I do get to work from home.
No, but
That's
you,
the irony.
I've
That's why
watched your
I
show.
said
You talk about all the nannies you hire, and it's so hard to find a good nanny.
I talked about all of the nannies I hired. but
you have.
I spoke about how difficult it was to find a babysitter who knew how to cook a meal, and that's because
you don't need a babysitter. You're already. You could retire right
you have
now.
to let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to.
To respond to you. When
No,
I
you
speak.
don't want to. You want to be working, which is great.
You're telling me what I want now, and then accusing me of telling you.
Wait,
what
you don't want to work?
And you just like.
Hey, yo, I think I just found it. This was... Okay. What is this? Oh, God. Okay, so I actually didn't... I don't remember doing this, but I wrote 2 versions of it. Oh, okay. I see. So my assignment, I think, was I was supposed to choose a topic and then write 2 essays. One of them are for, and the other one is against. So I actually wrote one essay that is anti-Trump border wall. That's sissy liberal shit. I only did that because I had to. But anyway, here's my essay, man. So wait, which one of these is the original though? Okay. Alright, so, are you listening? Here we go. Many Americans, as well as people of all nationalities, are surprised to find out just how smart Trump's wall is designed. In fact, the wall is set to feature solar panels to keep it more eco-friendly. Some have expressed concern about the cost of our wall, around $8.6 billion. But what they don't realize is this budget makes up a small portion of the U.S. defense budget. True. That is not even 1/100th of the current defense budget. But back then, I believe it was probably like a 1/90th of the defense budget, something like that. The price of Trump's wall is nothing to scoff at. $8.6 billion could do a lot of good. So a border wall is a tough sell. To find out if it's worth it, let's look at what other countries are doing. The Israel-Sinai border was able to cut illegal entries by 99% in 2013 to 14. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remarked that, "President Trump is right. I built a wall on Israel's southern border. It stopped all illegal immigration. Great success. Great idea." An actual quote from Benjamin Netanyahu. This very steep decrease makes a wall seem particularly alluring, but where the money comes from is another important question. Well, the measly $8.6 billion will easily come out of our $693 billion dollar defense budget. That was in 2016, I believe. That $8.6 billion is about 1.2% of our already bloated defense budget. Not to mention the countless jobs it'll create. Our brand spanking new border wall will take a lot of jobs to build. You could even say we're spreading that $8.6 billion back to the blue-collar working Americans. We need people to build blueprints, the wall, and the solar panels. The Mexican border is the perfect place for such solar panels, says Trump. And there is a very good chance we can do a solar wall, which would actually look good. Yeah, that's the end of the essay. That was it.
Be cooking, like there's something fundamentally wrong
I
with women.
I want to run that back real quick.
What I am saying to you, first to answer what you just said, which was a lie.
So what Candace Owens is about to say here is something so smart, so genius, that I never would have thought that such a dumbass like Candace Owens would say something like this. She said that 25-year-olds can't make mac and cheese because of feminism. What I spoke to you about on the weekends is that it's been increasingly difficult to find a 25-year-old who even knows how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, right? And that's crazy. That is in large part due to feminism. Women don't even focus. Women don't even focus. Like there's this idea that women shouldn't be cooking. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with women even learning how to cook.
Are you,
know what I
spending
mean?
as much time with your children as you possibly can? Because that's the way to get the most fulfillment.
No, and that's what I'm trying to say. I am speaking to you
then stop.
Okay, could you please let somebody get in?
I did.
I
let you finish.
You're not. You actually have not let anybody finish. And like I said, it's no one benefits when you're just speaking over me and not allowing me to respond. All you're proving is that you have an attitude and you believe in feminism, but you're not. See, that's what I'm saying. You just have an attitude, and it's not cute. It's performative.
I'd love I'm actually my point. I will be quiet if you address my point.
Does anybody actually feel here that I am being allowed to address any of her points when she does keep running over me? Like I'm literally trying to answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home.
Yeah,
fair point.
Really weird.
Fair point. Obviously, I get that you're all anti-Candace and pro-feminist, but also it's not productive if you're not actually.
Okay, address the point. You spend more time saying that I'm not addressing that you don't have a chance to talk. I mean, the whole time you could have addressed the point. Okay. You could have talked.
I
go for it.
Just want you to know that you're not coming across as somebody who wants to actually have a conversation. So to get back to the claim, because I don't even know where you're at. You're now talking. You're saying that I said stuff in my podcast.
I'll go wherever you want to go. I'll go wherever.
So do you want to start with me working at home? Because I work at home. You just said something about me working at home.
You travel all around the world.
Okay,
you do speeches, and I love that. I love how ambitious you are. That's a really great trait. And if you were truly said that you would be more fulfilled. Now, one thing you do find is women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this.
It's the same thing. Like, it's like saying, well, Hitler had a lot of drive, you know, like, I respect that. Like, he got busy, yo. I don't agree with that sentiment. I guess she's like, you know, since Candace Owens is mad and she couldn't talk, she couldn't get her points in. Now this woman is, like trying to be nice and like say something nice. But yeah, I mean, Candace Owens is literally just a white supremacist, a Nazi, and that's it. That's it.
So spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave.
I don't see it as a good thing.
What makes you fulfilled?
Okay.
Because of what she's driven about.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Straight Arrow News helps you quickly find trusted information you need to understand the news, allowing you to dive deep into the topics that matter to you and the world around you. Their work is trying to break the bias bubble, helping you understand how every side of the political spectrum is reporting on a story so you get a full picture of the news. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. They deliver the facts, unbiased, balanced, and designed to make sense of a complex world, getting you the clarity you deserve and news you can trust. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel. You also take advantage of a better way to get the news. Welcome back to Trustworthy Journalism. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
My next claim is that we live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy. Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
I love that.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes, so I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality, and I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired, we're interested in different careers, and just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, what it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male, patriarchy.
Okay, I think, love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you. You submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end.
Dude.
You know, earlier you said that, women would be much more happier.
Is it
working,
finished? I swear I hate Jubilee with a passion, but I keep coming back to it, LMAO. I thought it was over. Oh no. Oh, it ain't over. It ain't over, motherfucker. Yeah, no, this is good. I like this. This is delicious. Rap snitch
who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're
She's
not
referring to the 94 Violence Against Women Act, which provides protections at the federal level for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other crimes. Yeah, So what they're trying to say here is it's not totally accurate to say it was legal to beat your wife, okay, technically. But the reality is that most men back then, and even most men today probably, are not held accountable for the domestic violence that they do.
Happy with it?
I love her
and then they
voice
have
as
to
well. She
revoke
has a nice
that
voice.
Idea for something else.
This woman
And
needs
so
a
what you're
podcast.
saying
Give her a
is
podcast.
That women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay, so you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of...
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also
I
said...
think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office.
Spitting
no,
right
not
now.
necessarily, because remember,
Holy
the United
shit,
States,
this is what I say. She's literally me.
Average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade.
This feels like, oh my god, this is like a voice of reason in just like a swamp, okay? I don't know how else to put it. Like it's just like the only other person that, first of all, this woman here has just like totally left every other feminist in this room in the dust, okay? Totally, she is running circles right now around Candace Owens. But yeah, I mean, like, there have been, not that, like, the other, women, the guy sucked, okay, and the they, them also was pretty bad, but, and that one white girl that was, like, sweating profusely for some reason. Yeah, those three were pretty bad, but everybody else has done a good job. But this is very. I am
So we're
very
not dealing
satisfied
with educated people.
to listen
Lack
to
of
this
education
right now.
is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
Well, you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
Yeah, yes, yeah, what? Why do they have their flags up? Why do they have their flags up? Put them down! God damn, dude. Look, that shit makes my blood boil, man. Why? Why do they have their flags up? Because they're dumb? Yeah, it's a room full of dumbasses. It's just dumbasses up to the tippy top. All the way up. Why would you vote her out? Why? You want to know why? Because they all got something they want to say now. Because they listened to her and now they're like, oh, I want to go up there. I got something I want to add. Let her cook. Let her fucking cook, dude.
They've always been less educated.
So fucking
Did you know
annoying.
that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women? Illiterate.
Oh, hey, my bad. Did I scare you?
Nah, you're good.
That was me yelling. It was.
And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population?
RHO,
White
yeah, I
women.
don't even know.
And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists. Because we, as black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic
Real
success
Housewives
and
of
what
Atlanta.
they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well.
Oh, why
so
does she look
I'm
like
sorry,
that?
but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Photo look
Sorry,
like
you've been
that.
voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I don't like
Thank
that.
you for the respectful conversation.
I don't like that photo.
Hi, how are you?
Great to meet you. I'm
course
doing
I
well.
always ask
So
research.
I view this argument as a
Oh,
matter of fact.
a
Right?
man
This
is
a descriptive claim
speaking.
about
Everybody
the,
sit
cultural
down.
reality we live in, and patriarchy being a
Sit
system in which
sit
men
your
hold the
black
predominance
ass
of power
down and
in both
listen
political,
to this
economic,
white-
and social
a white man is
methods of
speaking.
organization. So S&P 500
My bad.
companies, 90% of CEOs are men. Board members, 70% of CEOs are men. 70% of congressional members are
Evan
men.
is
You
cute,
may
no
provide
homo.
some sort of
Is this
naturalistic
Evan?
argument to why that is, but what you're essentially arguing then is
This
that
is
there's
cute.
a natural patriarchy, which I think feminists would all disagree with. We think that there's a clear social pressure as to why this is, and part of the evidence for that is since
I like
feminism's
his chain. I like his
arise
fake
within
chain.
our public culture, we've now seen an explosion of women entering these fields, but we have a long way to go. But fundamentally, the claim regarding patriarchy or matriarchy, we are so much closer to where we were just a few decades ago or a couple generations ago, where women couldn't hold a credit card, than a system where men can't hold a credit card. We're still much closer to that form of society.
Why would you say that we're closer to that? What do you mean by that? Did you just qualify that?
Because in terms of economic power, so for example, household wealth, women own 55 cents to every dollar a man owns.
Who controls household spending, though?
households-
Talk about how the money's
yeah,
made
yes.
in America. How is it being spent? Who spends it?
So it's primarily spent by women, as you've noted, but then the money where the profit's being generated, it's being generated by
Would
men.
you rather be the people that are spending and deciding on what the money's being spent on,
You
or
would-
would you rather be the person that's just working
You would-
to earn
well,
that?
well, CEOs and board members aren't working; they own the shares,
Right.
and they're making the profit.
well, when you own it, profit, making,
much
profit is
rather,
making.
You would much in a capitalist system, by definition, you would much rather be making the profit than spending.
I would much rather be spending your money than having to work for your money. Just so we are
Well,
so totally
okay,
clear
well-
here, I would much rather spend
I'm
your
not-
money
I'm not talking-
and have to go out and earn your money.
Well, you're talking about wage laborers in terms of working, but in terms of
No, I'm
who
speaking
actually
about
owns
spending
the
power.
wealth.
Right,
Yeah,
well-
yeah. Well, sure. Okay.
But that matters.
Wait,
If 85%
Sure.
of 85 cents of every dollar, how that's being spent, is being determined by women, that's power. That we can't say spending power is
but
not
why,
power.
why do you think that is the case? It's because women are often relegated to the role of doing grocery shopping, etc. Because for millennia now, or from millennia up until now, women were unable.
This is so fucking stupid. It's like women be spending more money. On what? On what? He just said it. Groceries. Groceries, man. That doesn't mean we live in a fucking matriarchy. What the fuck? Anyway,
enter
like
the workforce.
this whole conversation is just stupid, and I didn't say it at the beginning because, like, what that woman said, I forgot her name, my bad, but what she said, the woman that first came up and debated this topic, is like true. Okay, definitionally, we don't live under a matriarchy. We do live under a patriarchy. That is that is just a factual, like, if you go by the definitions of the words, unequivocally, we live in a patriarchy. And that's why this whole conversation is fucking stupid. It doesn't. A conversation over, okay? Like look at the definitions, okay? Definitionally, we do live under a patriarchy and not a matriarchy. Crazy. Conversation over. Okay, close it up.
Economic, political.
So let's get into the reasons, because you brought up something that men are the people that are at the top of these companies, these Fortune 500 companies.
Right. And political power.
You're absolutely right. Why is that?
It's primarily because the women haven't broken the ceiling quite yet in terms of meeting men in terms of parity with these sort of powers. But what we've seen with the explosion of feminism is that women have actually begun to enter these companies, have risen into both political and economic positions of power. But that continues to grow year by year, which shows that these social pressures are actually breaking apart as soon as feminism comes into play.
So what I would say is what that shows you is that women and men have different interests. And I think this gets into what I was saying, that just because you see a disparity does not mean that it's not just a disparity in what our interests are. That's what's being represented. I don't know why there has been this idea that women should want to aspire to work 80 hours a week in order to be on par with men.
Do you think that interests are innate, or do you think that
the interests are innate?
So why is it then that, for example, in the 1980s, only a quarter of college graduates were women, where now majority of college graduates are women? That shows that because of the way that social pressures have
work all the time and let their women spend their money, and women just want to spend all the money. Like, that's the fucking level of conversation we're having here.
For example, a few hundred years ago, that a lot of primary philosophers like Immanuel Kant, Hegel, didn't even believe women could be reasonable. Now here you are today doing a debate with me where we're using logic and reason to get to these flows, and nobody here would dismiss the claim that you can't be rational or logical or be, for example, a great lawyer because you're a woman.
Right. So I totally agree with you that women, but I think they have actually entered into the workforce. I mean, entered into college under this external pressure of feeling that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
So you admit
and
that
knowing
pressures
that
are a part of the way interests work.
Yes, but we're disagreeing on where the pressure is coming from. Like, I think that now the pressure is that if a woman doesn't enter the force, there's no longer this idea that, okay, we're going to come together as a family, whereas there was this reality that there was this understanding that you would have a partner. People were getting married when they were 18, 19 years old. Right. Our grandparents, now it's because of feminism. And I'm saying this is the downside of feminism. Women no longer have that sense. They think that if they have to be pressured to go take out a loan to go to college, and then you have the pressure to get.
Well, they have the same pressures as men because women no longer rely on it for an income.
I definitely want that
like our
80 hours.
I might have to come back
the
to you.
fact that it's almost 9 is okay with me because I have a roof over my head.
Hi, Candace Owens. I'm Paris.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, can I explain to you why I believe we live in a patriarchy and why I believe we live in a society that's
It's your
powered by men?
bedtime,
So,
bro.
I'm going to use the example of male violence. There's a lot of places I can look, but we're going to talk about that. 81% of women have been sexually assaulted. 1 in 6 have been raped. 1 in 4 women are the victims of domestic violence. 98% of perpetrators of rape and sexual assault are men. 95% of perpetrators of domestic violence are men. In
Life is
regards
hard,
to human
man.
trafficking, 70% of human trafficking victims are women. So, we're seeing a very clear issue of men being violent towards women. And then when we look at the way that our government handles that, 1 out of 3 rapes go reported. And then out of the ones that go reported, 7% end in jail time. So if we're looking at that and we're looking at the fact that our government doesn't really get that worried about male violence.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, so what I would say is, going back to biological differences, men are naturally inclined more towards aggression than women are. So I am not shocked by you telling me. Even if you looked at, like I said, male on male crime, you would see that there are more instances of men killing other men than there are instances of women killing other women. And that, I think, actually speaks to our biological differences, which is actually at the root of everything that I believe about feminism being a lie, is because they're trying to program people to believe that men and women are the same. Now, I don't think that pointing to the fact that men are more aggressive than women, which is a point that you and I 1000% agree on, whether or not that manifests in the very wrong way, men harming other men, which I think they do more probably than they are beating women, men on male violence. That manifestation doesn't change the fact that men and women are just biologically hardwired different. I think it's actually proof of that. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact of power dynamics in this country, because to the contrary, if you look at prison rates and talking about how disparities don't mean anything, the majority of overwhelming people that are in prison are male, right? There's a reason for that. So when it manifests in a good way, that male aggression, is the reason why we have men defending us, men that are willing to go to war and die for our nation. So aggression being an aspect of masculinity has nothing to do with the conversation of whether or not feminism is harming women today.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that
we agree.
women are biologically different.
Yes,
men
but I don't. What I want you to connect it to is, I guess, power. Because what I'm talking about when I say that we're existing under a matriarchy is that I believe that the social pressures politically and socially that are coming, and even within our music, if we talk about Hollywood, it's very much
that
has
power
become
means nothing. Like just because like who was on the top music charts or whatever are women. Okay, how many women have paid maternity leave?
That's not
like how are things panning out in the family courts? Why are abusive men having access to their children? Like why are women making less than men? Like what? I mean, none of that means anything to me.
So that gap, obviously, I'm sure you've recognized the gender gap has been debunked so many times. It's almost foolish to debunk it again.
Well, you could say that most women will go into jobs where they're making less, but then it does answer the question of why do we not value women's labor?
That's not valuing women's labor. It's just a reality that if you are going to be a person that aspires to become a brain surgeon, you are going to make more money than a person that aspires to do something that's, like in the household.
Can we go back to the bail bonds question?
Yes.
Why does our country not persecute men then who are rapists?
Well, the majority of people who are in prison are men, so I don't know what you mean that we don't prosecute men that are rapists. We even prosecute people.
7% go to jail. Only 7% go to jail.
I don't know what that has to do with the question of whether or not we're living in a matriarchy or a patriarchy.
Because our government is preferential to men.
You're saying that they only like to arrest men when they kill someone, but our government is awarding men for raping women. I don't understand what
they don't care. Rape is effectively legal. You can literally rape a woman and you have a very low likelihood of actually going to jail as a man.
Rape is effectively legal.
It's effectively legal. How many men are actually going to jail for rape?
I actually agree with you that in terms of sex crimes, and I don't know how you're peeling out women, because I would even, and again, this has nothing to do with our argument today, but I would even say that people are not being prosecuted hard enough when we're dealing with crimes against children, period.
Yeah.
Talking about
100%.
Sexual crimes not being prosecuted
100%.
in this country is a whole
Oh my
other...
God, dude. Whenever, it's so weird. Whenever the topic of sex crimes apparates, when having a political discussion with a conservative, they always bring up children. They're always like, yeah, and and it's like, look, I'm not saying it's like really like wrong to talk about it. Obviously not. But I think that we were talking about women being raped, and how it's very difficult to it is very difficult in the current structure of legislation surrounding rape to hold a man accountable for raping someone when he raped a person. That's the point. And then she's like, oh, but like think about the children though, and it's just a distraction. It's just an obvious fucking distraction. It's so
conversation, and you will not get a disagreement with me, but I think that it's wrong to say that it's somehow attached to being a woman when you know there are so many children that are going through the exact same thing. I mean, the light sentences that are tossed out for pedophiles, it's completely ridiculous.
All right, guys, pause.
But I don't think it has anything to do with the conversation that we're having right now. But I agree with
But
that.
it has everything to do with the conversation. What are you talking about? I don't care if men are getting away with raping women or they're getting away with raping children. That is certainly supportive of the idea that we live in a patriarchy. What the fuck?
I'm going to add 5
Why
more
does she
minutes
seem
to
nervous?
this claim.
I don't know. Because she is nervous. Because
nice to meet you. Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you.
It would make me nervous
so
too.
your claim is,
just
to be clear, that we live in a matriarchy, right?
Yes.
So I think even you'd agree that on a global level, that's obviously ridiculous when there are countries where people literally are honor killed for like Instagram posts. But even if we're talking about just the US, right? We don't have paid maternity leave. Abortion is illegal in over a dozen different states. And as someone earlier was mentioning, women are overwhelmingly the victims of sexual violence and domestic abuse. So that doesn't seem like a very well-designed matriarchy where women are victims or, lacking power in so many different realms of society on like a structural level.
I just do not think that women are lacking power on a structural level because they can't, which they can, by the way, abort their children. Is that like one of your components? Is that
there's many states where abortion is illegal? Do you dispute that?
I am going to dispute that having a child is somehow something that restricts women in any capacity. Like you're
what
saying
about the ability to decide what you do with your own body?
I don't believe that I don't believe that murder is something that you should be allowed to decide.
Sure, and murder is illegal.
It's actually what you're doing to somebody else's body.
Sure,
so
murder,
I'm pro-life. So the argument that women will only be free if they're able to kill off their own offspring to me is
that's a really
extremely off-colored.
Well, I guess if you frame it that way, everyone kind of has to agree with you. But when we're talking about abortion, when 99% take place in the first few weeks, when there's no thalamus, there's no cortex, there's no capacity for consciousness in the fetus that's developing, saying that that fetus that has no capacity to be conscious, aware, anything else, should have the same rights, same bodily autonomy as a woman, that is an obvious. I mean, you're making my point for me.
You're actually making a point that people who are born with tremendous disability should just be killed because of cognitive functions and ability.
I don't remember saying that. When did I say that?
The best argument, which again, this is sidetracked.
You're saying that
let's get back on track.
Kill people with disabilities.
Well, I'm saying that if you're saying no, I am saying that if you're saying that it's cognitive ability and at what
the
stage
ability
you
to
think.
be conscious, and just so we're clear, disabled people are conscious. They're aware.
Okay. So the best argument that it is a life is the fact that you have to kill it. You have to have a procedure to kill it, right? So you have to intervene on the develop. Like you
living
said, you
human
called
cells
it,
in it, but
you
it's
called
not
it a
conscious.
developing life.
Sure.
If you have to go into your body and murder it, then
I'm not
it's
disputing that
murder.
there's living human cells in a
Again, so we
That's
can
not the
just tack that off because we just have a fundamental disagreement on
Sure,
whether or
then we
not
can
a child
talk
is a
about
life.
paid maternity leave. People have been talking a lot about whether you have to be a mother, you have
Yes.
to work. A lot of women have to pick one or the other because in many cases, if you want to have a child, first of all, there's a big gap in your resume, so getting a job after that might be super difficult. And then secondly, even in the process of having that child, being pregnant, especially in the third trimester, and then raising the child, where the vast majority of the burden typically is on the mother, the workplace and our system of our economy
If you have
is
a
not
gap in
tailored
your
to make that
resume,
easy for
just
them.
lie. By
I
the way, just
actually totally agree with you. And this gets
Paid
into
maternity leave, you
this.
agree?
I don't know. Actually, I'm agreeing with you that this pressure that you're describing exists for women, and I'm saying that it exists for women because of the
Makes them
feminists that
look
came
like
before
an
who
ape.
argued for women to enter the workplace. So what you're saying is the solution
that's
didn't
not
work,
what
and it
I-
actually produced
that's-
more problems.
that-
And now we have more
wait,
problems.
wait,
We need
wait,
more
wait,
governance
wait,
to be able to
that's not what I
tackle
was
these problems. So
thinking.
you're
Any
like,
system that's
you need the
forcing women
government
to make certain decisions, I just wouldn't
It's
call
not
that feminism.
forcing women to make- it's not
Women should have the
forcing-
option to choose, do I want to be a stay-at-home mom? Do I want to work? Do I have some mix of both?
Right.
That's the entire point here.
But you are also making an argument that if you are a woman who does run a business and does have employees, that they should be forced to pay them maternity leave.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so let me
That's like saying taxes are forced. There's certain things the government does to regulate our economy to ensure equality and justice and better outcomes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just so you know, when you do that, like to a small business
every
owner,
other developed country does.
what you are arguing for is supporting big corporations and taking out the little guys because
I'm arguing for supporting people that want to be mothers and also work at the same time.
Right,
The mechanism we do that with, it can be
But you can't-
subsidies,
you
taxes.
guys
like-
can't
Yeah, and there's no other way. If we pay women maternity leave, it'll kill all small businesses. There's totally no way to solve that. That definitely.
You can't say that we can't have the economic. We can't get down to the economics of
We
what it
can't do
actually
that. We
implies.
can't
right?
do that.
I have an
impossible.
economics
It's
degree, and I can tell
impossible.
you if there's a small business that can't afford to pay maternity leave,
Right.
the government would probably subsidize them and help cover the costs.
Where's
Like,
the government getting money from? This is
tax revenue. I mean,
right, exactly. So from us,
Yeah, tax. No. Well, she's sort of right. Okay, because who does the government tax primarily? Us, the working class, the little guy. But no, taxes don't have to come from us. We could get them from rich people, and that is the point, okay? Bingo, I lied. What'd you lie about?
So from us, just to be clear, from us, and this is the thing that gets me about all of these debates.
Yeah.
The magic solution that everybody has is that we just need to
It's
tax
not
the
magic.
government more.
Every other developed country has paid
but
maternity
but
leave.
it's not magic as in like
I
the
guess
money
what
is
are these
coming.
magical
The
countries?
money is coming from you. It's coming from us. So you're sitting
Yes,
here
that's how
saying,
taxes work.
Yes,
Yeah, like-
we should be raising taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the entire problem is that the government is already taxing homes times two, and people
Sure.
are already struggling with what's being taken out of
We're
their
not
taxes.
taxing capital gains properly or corporate profits
Sure,
properly
you
or
have
high
something
income
that
properly.
there's a reason that we should be taxing more here, there.
It's
The
an
point is
efficiency
that the
problem.
reason
Don't you
why
guys want like government
families are
efficiency?
having
Maybe bring in more revenue to help women be mothers? Like,
what I'm saying is that you are just creating a cyclical argument. You're basically saying that women want to be able to have it all. Women cannot have it all because the government
choice to do what they'd like.
Okay, but you're saying women should have the choice to have it all. Okay, so you're
That's
saying
a really interesting way of putting like what you're. Do you have it all right now, where you're working and you're also a mother? Is that having it all?
I'm saying that it's not possible for women to have it all. It is
Okay,
impossible.
what do you have?
and that's one of
Whatever
the,
that is what I would want other women to have as well, which is the flexibility
Right, so
to
you-
work a job and also raise kids if they'd like.
No, but that's exactly. You guys keep arguing that what people want is more flexibility. So you're acknowledging that right now, with feminism on fire, we are agreeing. Women are going into the
Feminism on
workforce.
fire, okay.
Like I'm just kind of using a hyperbolic
Okay,
expression.
okay,
Like
okay.
feminism is everywhere. We are arguing that women need to have more opportunities. Women need to have more rights. They've taken that. Now you have the majority of people that are graduating with college degrees are in fact women. Men are committing suicide at a higher rate than women. We're looking around the world.
Feminism also would push for like increased
Great,
awareness
fine.
of men's
We don't
mental
need
health.
to-
So like
that's fine. Great. You love feminism. That's great. We already know that.
Yeah,
We get it.
most Americans agree with me, by the way.
Actually,
like women should have
I
paid
think
maternity leave.
culture
If you go
is
issue by
changing.
issue and by
We
values,
cannot
they might not
increase
associate with the term feminism because
corporate
people like you have
taxes.
it toxic.
We
But the
cannot.
actual
The
values
next thing is
behind
that you
feminism
will
are
move the
extremely
goalpost,
positive.
and then when they
it's
begin
not possible.
taxing so that we can account
They
for
must
paid
record
maternity leave for 3
record-
months, which
more
basically
record
means a small
profits.
business owner has to not have an employee while having to pay months and months and months. Like the person's not there. They're not actually.
Small business doesn't have the revenue to cover paid maternity leave. The government would probably subsidize them to make up the cost.
No, I actually think that the way things were made more sense, where we had an environment where you could afford to take care of children with just one person
you
bringing
would-
in income in the house.
Is that possible in the current environment?
You can obviously.
When things are going to get way more expensive with these tariffs
Well,
as
we'll
well, like it's not going to be easy to afford anything in the coming years.
I agree with her. That would be great. That would be awesome. We would love that. How do we do that? How do we do that? Oh wait, we have to tax corporations. Oh well. I guess that we should just women should just live at the home and do it because they want to, and they should just survive off of one income. Yep. Yep, that genius Candace
happen
Owens. Genius
overnight,
argument.
no, but I think we need to be realistic about the fact that
Master
the first thing didn't
debater.
work, right? The entire
What is the first
argument,
thing?
the first thing was women entering the workforce is going to make everybody happier and richer. That was the
The idea is that women having the
plan.
choice to enter the workforce is better than them being forced to not do that.
Okay.
That's the argument.
Okay, that actually is not the argument at all. The argument was that women would become, and I'm talking about what the feminists got ahead of, and
You
this
can
is why
debate
women
like this
women need to be
imaginary
like
Twitter
men.
feminist, but like
It's
right now you're
not-
talking to me, and
it's
that's not the argument.
I'm
that
not
I'm making.
actually debating an imaginary Twitter feminist. I'm speaking to you, and I have no
Right.
idea why you're becoming increasingly more rude when I'm just rebutting your
Because
points that you're
no, you're
bringing
not
up.
responding to my point.
I
That's
am
the issue.
responding to your point. I'm saying that you're creating a cyclical argument where you keep saying that the thing that you just did, that you said was going to be enough. What we
Right.
actually need is for women to just enter the workforce. Oh, women are in the workforce, and actually
not
we have,
enough. I'm saying we don't have enough
okay.
because we don't
and
have
I'm
paid
telling you that
maternity.
you're also not going to have enough because you're going to then be complaining when you get that paid maternity leave.
I'm not
because
gonna get maternity
you're okay. Well, they are arguing for family paid leave, so.
That's even better, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
love that.
you might get.
Do you think
might
fathers
get
should also be around to
All
help
right,
raise
guys,
children?
pause.
I think who's going to work if everybody goes home every time a child is
Not
born?
everyone's gonna have a kid at
Pause,
the same time.
guys. Pause. All right.
Everyone will have a male partner.
Good talking to
Yeah,
you.
nice talking to you as well. My final claim is that feminism has made things easier for men.
He did pretty good. I like that guy.
Hi.
Hi,
I'm Jenny.
Candace.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
You said that feminism is easier for men, or is
It's made things, I think, easier
Made
in
things
society
easier
for
for
men.
men.
Yeah. Now men don't have to commit, and they're being offered sex from women for free, so they have to actually effectively do less and be motivated less because feminism has kind of insisted on this culture of sex and hooking up, and I think that has been a net negative for women.
on good faith? I just want to say I think you're approaching this with like the best interest for women. Like you think that is negative for women and harmful, and I think in some aspects we can agree to that.
Wow.
I do think that there are some aspects of sex work or OnlyFans or whatnot that maybe men are definitely the huge consumers of. But if we are so concerned with women putting that out for free, it's charged, right? They're making money off of it. Then why are we not putting the onus more on men for being the one that is in control of that demand, right? So we can take away the supply or, condemn it all we want. But if there's no onus on men to be the consumers of said products, then wouldn't you think that would solve the issue that you're bringing up?
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that, and I really get to that. I want to be very clear. When I say that I'm anti-feminist, this does not mean that I do not also criticize men. I think that's something
Okay.
that people get very wrong.
Okay.
1000% agree. I believe the problem was seeded by the feminist movement. I think the sex revolution and telling women, literally these people were protesting, they didn't
Yeah,
have their
guys,
shirts on,
I'm
and this used to be
stupid
just,
across
your
the
grandparents
board.
couldn't even imagine this, like women walking down the street and having their boobs out and their butts out on Instagram. And it created an environment where men then had to work harder for a woman's affection, for a woman to take her clothes off, sex education in the classroom. There's this huge myth that people were just doing it, like, we might as well teach them because the children are just doing it. Actually, before they introduced sex education, the majority of high school graduates were graduating with their virginity intact, and then within 10 years of sex education, we saw a reversal. So I'm saying feminism actually seeded the problem, and now the problem is bad, and it's also bad for men. It's harmful for men to be constantly exposed to pornography and soft pornography, and I think it actually, in many ways, emasculates men.
Okay.
But I would say they are the main social benefactors of that culture because,
intact.
well, first and foremost, as we're
Yeah,
talking about women who have to
I'm
kind
sure
of
there is nothing else about that statistic that may why were so many people reporting that they were virgins back then? It must be because they actually were virgins. That must be why. It must be because they were telling the truth. Yeah, I don't think they were telling the truth, man. I don't think they were. I think they were lying. You know why? Because that was a time of sexual repression. Okay, it was shameful. Shameful. Anyway. What was that fact check anyway? I wanted
in 10 years of sex education, we saw a reversal. So I'm saying feminism actually seeded the problem, and now the problem is bad.
54% of in 91, 54% of high schoolers reported having sexual intercourse. That number's God damn it, dude. That number decreased to 30% by 2021. Yeah. Source, I made it up.
And it's also bad
Candace
for men.
Owens
It's
be
harmful
like, "Source,
for men
I
to be
made it
constantly
up."
exposed to pornography and soft pornography. And I think it actually, in many ways, emasculates men.
Okay.
But I would say they are the main social benefactors of that culture.
No. Men are emasculated in our society, and it's not because of fucking porn. You dumb fuck. You dumb little person. You racist white supremacist Candace Owens. You are wrong. Okay, the reason that men are emasculated in our society is because we produce commodities, we work, and we get nothing in return. We get fucked over by our bosses. We get no health care. When we lose our job, either by happenstance or because, you woke up late, or, you snapped and yelled at your boss because you've been working overtime and you're not getting paid for the overtime because they never fucking pay you for it. You get fired, and then you're homeless. Oops. That's what I'm saying here is what emasculates men in our society is their material condition. And that's it. That's pretty much it. There are some other things outside of material conditions which emasculate men, sure. But that is the main thing. It just is. There is nothing more emasculating than living in the homeless shelter. It's just the way it is, okay? That's it. That's what I think.
Because, well, first and foremost, as we're talking about women who have to kind of pick one or the other or try to manage both, and can we have it all? No, you can't have it all. On a day where I really feel like I gave a little bit more to my career, I ache because I go, okay, but now I feel like I didn't give the same amount to my children. And it's a constant push and pull, and it never feels enough. It really doesn't feel enough.
So to a degree, I think that feminism does benefit men. I think that it allows men to be more emotionally intelligent. It allows them to understand what that looks like and also be able to connect with other people, right? But at the same time, there's so much work that feminism has done for women that to say that it benefits men more, I don't think is an accurate statement. For example, Title IX has made it very possible for women to go to college, 600% more so, right? And I think that that is a huge benefit that we can credit to the feminist movement. Though I understand your point, though, of trying to say that sex work is harmful for women and more beneficial for men because they're benefiting from it the most. But at the same time, if you think they're also suffering from it, does that not contradict your point?
Yeah, so I disagree on the fact that, and we do agree that more women are going to college, more women than men are graduating with college degrees. And despite that, people are saying that we still live under a patriarchy. Women are free to start their own companies. Women are free to pay women whatever they want to pay. Women could hire, and in some cases do hire all women. And so I don't really understand, which wasn't your argument to be fair, the idea that even with all of that freedom, women are still not able to achieve what men are able to achieve. I think college education actually has increased women's stress. And I'm talking about in terms of how expensive it is. And I know you're gonna then say, well, the solution to that is we have to then move the goalpost. And I'm guessing here.
No,
but college should be free. Everything should be free. He thinks, we just need more free stuff, and obviously nothing's free. We're just gonna tax us until 100%.
I just want to say, I think the issue that we keep coming back to is that you believe that women would be happiest in the home where they don't have to work. And I think most people in general probably wouldn't want to work anyways. But I think the main issue that we keep avoiding is that this is not an issue created by feminism. This is an issue created by capitalism.
Yeah, so I've heard this argument that it's an issue created by capitalism.
But you don't agree? You think feminism is the greater issue than the system
think that now the issue
more money to live?
Well, we have to spend more money to live, right. I think in large part because feminists got duped by the government. And I think we just keep further enslaving ourselves to the government. I'm not a person who believes in big government. And yet you find that feminists are constantly well, we can deal with the college issue, we just need more government. We can deal with the, needing to have more benefits, we just need more government. So it's okay, let's just tax every household 100%. And I'm trying to prevent that. And I'm saying that there was a time in America, and what's aspirational for me is I was, raised in part by my grandparents. They were very happy. They were just, I lived in that environment of what that looked like. And I think for many of people who didn't grow up there, feminism has taught us, and I say this as someone who had to take feminism 101 courses when I was in college, that it was like this nightmare, and people weren't happy, and people were suffering, and women were suffering. People were being forced, and that there weren't actually these things that just marriages that worked, that the women actually weren't disempowered by being the CEOs of their household.
Well, allowing women to have more choice and freedom and agency to leave.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
I did enjoy this conversation. Very respectful.
I was thinking that a lot of your claims are very contradictory, saying that we live in a matriarchy, that men benefit from feminism more. I would like to understand why, again, you think that men benefit from feminism more?
Basically, because men don't have to commit to women. Men are still able to do what they're doing, and they are allowed to basically step away from all of the responsibilities of what it really meant to be a man and lead a household. And that's in large part, I think, due to the sexual revolution.
I mean, is it really bad that we don't have to give men the chase? Don't they have gratification from chasing us? Like, it's a hunter versus prey situation to me. So I feel like a lot of relationships, especially back then, were based on trying to get to home run like very fast. And now that we have the freedom to not commit and not tie ourselves to one man for the rest of our life, I just don't necessarily think that's bad. I just don't think the revolution has decreased our value. We're not chewed gum. We're people who value connection. And sex doesn't always have to have this deep meaning. It is just connection and intimacy between two people who trust each other. And why do we have to deny women that gratification? Like, men, you say, that are wired to want that. Why not women? Why?
Well, again, I go back to just our basic biological differences. There was a really interesting book that was done by a biophysicist. He, I think, recently passed away, named Edward O. Wilson, where he just sort of breaks down the biological arguments. Basically, he looks in the wild to see the behavior of animals. His thesis is just that you basically can never beat your own biology. And then he kind of compares it to what we see here as just humans and our social interactions and things that have been abundantly clear when you look at every civilization over time, whether it's from, 400 BC to LA today. What are these habits that you can see that never go away? And people coming together and starting families is one of these things, because we are biologically wired to find a family, to settle down, and to have children. And I think when you have women that are going out and they're giving all of the goods up for free.
The goods?
The goods.
The goods?
I'm not going to say, the goods up for free. Men are
women
not.
want the goods for free from men, and that we are very
You
happy
can
with
certainly
those
do that, and there's
connections. We're not sockeye salmon. We're not made to breed and have families and then die.
You are welcome to do that. I'm just saying that when it comes time for you to find a partner, you may find yourself in a circumstance where men don't value you as high, because men like you spoke to, men like to compete. They like to feel like they've won something.
I'd like to deprive men of that because they don't need to have that. Sure. That's actually
But you did bring up.
Yeah, and that's what you say, that men are, essentially predatory, and we have the goods that we have to keep from them.
Oh, I didn't mean the goods in a bad way.
But that's such an objectifying way. The goods, the grocery goods.
Honestly, I think that that's just kind of
we
in
don't have value
colloquial
in
songs today. I think
we
people
have value apart from how many people we sleep with. How many you also devalue education for women, and I think that's very interesting because you're also a very educated woman, and in a lot of ways, this is just like an observation. You devalue yourself a lot.
I definitely do not feel like I'm devaluing myself.
Make him a sandwich?
Yeah. Yes, which is the title of my book.
Yes, feed your men and everything. Feed the people that you love. Because family isn't defined just by your partner or your kids. Family is community, and you should care about your community. And understanding that, I just don't think you really care about the community that much when you're pushing this rhetoric of devaluing women so much to stay in the kitchen, stay within the homes. And also saying that they're wasting money on college when education is very important. There's a lot of female scientists.
Pause.
There's
You've been
so much
voted
that I
out.
want to say.
Sorry. You've been voted out.
Yeah, that was.
Hello.
That was
Hi,
pretty.
how are
That
you?
was pretty
I'm
rough.
Zola Stone.
Very nice to meet you, Zola. You have very pretty eyes.
Thank you. So you keep talking about OnlyFans and Kim Kardashian, and I do OnlyFans.
That last woman, she was really going hard, and so she fumbled a couple times there, a little bit, but damn, that by the end, hold on, wait, what did she? She did say a lot.
Are, essentially predatory, and we have the goods that we have to keep from them.
Oh, I didn't mean the goods in a bad way.
When she brought up her book, that was
the grocery goods.
Honestly, I think that that's just kind of
we
in
don't have value
colloquial
in
songs today. I think
we
people,
have value apart from how many people we sleep with. How many you also devalue education for women, and I think that's very interesting because you're also a very educated woman, and in a lot of ways, this is just like an observation. You devalue yourself a lot.
I definitely do not feel like I'm devaluing myself.
Make him a sandwich?
Yeah. Yes, which is the title of my book.
Yes, feed your men and everything. Feed the people that you love. Because family isn't defined just by your partner or your kids. Family is community, and you should care about your community. And understanding that, I just don't think you really care about the community that much when you're pushing this rhetoric of devaluing women so much to stay in the kitchen, stay within the homes. And also saying that they're wasting money on college when education is very important. There's a lot of female scientists.
Pause. You've been voted out.
Candace, they voted her out? I don't
Hello.
get it. I don't know
Hi,
why
how
they
are
do
you?
it.
I'm Zola Stone.
Very nice to meet you, Zola. You have very pretty eyes.
Thank you. So you keep talking about OnlyFans and Kim Kardashian, and I do OnlyFans.
I don't know. Maybe they
and I'm a
thought she
stripper as
couldn't top
well.
it.
So you're in the sex industry.
I'm mainly a recording artist, but I do that to fund the music.
Okay.
But you're saying basically that we kind of devalue ourselves, but at the same time, I'm celibate. I still consider myself a woman of God, and so not all of us are just out there just, oh, hey, showing the goods, like we do respect our bodies still. So I don't like that you kind of putting us all in one box because of that.
So we have to, in order to have debates, we have to make generalizations. Of course, there can be some exceptions to the rule. But what I'm trying to understand is, how can you say that you're not, giving up your body if you are a stripper?
Well, because I said I'm celibate. I still want to get married. I still want to have kids. And for some of us, it's hard for us to have kids. And I've also dealt with sexual abuse since a child, so I wasn't doing any sexual work as a child, and still went through things like that.
Yeah. So I first want to say, perfectly sympathetic to everything you're saying, especially if you come from an environment where you've lived through something when you're a kid. It makes it infinitely harder. And it's actually a reason why so many people turn to sex work, because they don't have that structure at home that gives them, I think, other options. But would you agree with me that if you could, that wouldn't have...
I went to college for music production.
For music production.
I went to LA recording school.
Okay, so did you decide to be a stripper because of economic restraint or because of freedom?
For freedom. We want the choice to do whatever we want with our bodies.
Okay.
I don't think it matters if you do want to dress how you want to dress. That doesn't mean, you can, sexually abuse or sexually harass.
Okay, do you think the men that are being brought into the strip clubs to watch you...
Okay, I'm sorry. Look, I still can't get over she's a Christian sex worker. I love that shit, okay? But the really crazy part, she was she's celibate? That's crazy. I don't know. It's not that crazy, actually. That's pretty normal. It's not a combination that... I feel like it happens more often than you think. But it is kind of one of those things that's how? I don't know.
Do you think that they're walking away and going, I did that because that woman was empowered to take off her clothes? Or do you think that they're actually devaluing women?
No, I get it. I used to be that hypocrite. I said things that I said I would never do anything like that, I totally get that. But some people just want to go to the club and have a good time.
Yeah, I think most of the people who are making those decisions are doing it because they're dealing with addictions themselves. I think you're worth more than taking your clothes off. I think that if you wanted to have a career in music, you wouldn't have to take your clothes off to do that. And I think that it's sad.
It's a fucking job. What the fuck are you talking about?
Every story is different, but I think
that you shouldn't want to do that.
I was going to college. I was working 3 jobs. I used to be a nurse. So you just don't know the situations. You don't know how life is going to turn out. It's going to be ups and downs. But no, I didn't want to do it. But in my situation and things that I went through, it's something that it just...
But I'm actually really glad that you said, no, I didn't want to do it, and you were put in a situation where you had to do it, because I think that's really honest. And I think the problem that I find with feminism is that it's a dishonest movement.
All right, guys, pause. It's been voted out by the majority. Please return. Thank you.
I'm not judging
I'm not judging.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Catherine. Candace.
You brought up the book about that we were going to biology, and that biology is
God,
what we should organize society on based on what
they
skills
do this shit
I
now.
can restate what I said.
Maybe they've always been doing it, but the evil maxing, I hate it. Candace Owens, I hate you. I hate you with all my heart. I really do. And I know Jesus wouldn't want me to, okay? And I love Jesus, but you're a real piece of shit, dude.
There's a book, and the argument that's being made is that you can't override, you can't outthink your biology, is the easiest way to say it. So feminism, I would say, is a movement where they're trying to outthink biology, meaning that all we have to do is this, and that, and then magically we're going to be transformed, and that desire within us to want to start a family is just going to die, or we're going to be happier doing this thing. And I think the answer to that is no.
Right. I would argue that our biology does not have as much of an effect on the things that we choose to do with our careers, with our life choices, as you think it does. Our closest ancestors are chimps and bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, chimps are patriarchal. So, and our previous societies have run egalitarian for millennia. It's not been this inherent desire for men to rule a certain way and women to rule another way.
I'm not sure if I would call bonobos matriarchal. I don't know enough about bonobos to say if that's accurate or not. I don't know. Did she say what did she say? Did she say she was a biologist or something? I can't remember. Look. She's right anyway, okay? It's just
it has been egalitarian, it's been matriarchal. It's been patriarchal because
groups.
there are things that
go
go
into society.
Affect your situation,
they are
your personality that make you better at doing something
there
than just your...
mammals that are matriarchal. The hyenas. Hyenas, there are probably like tons of others. I can't fucking think of them right now. How many are there though? A case of elephants. All right, well.
Biology. I know many quiet, nerdy men that would not be good leaders.
People constantly try to problematize her life, and she's like, I have 8 kids now. It's like, not only do I love kids, I have 8 of them, and I'm...
Of having that child, being pregnant, especially...
Where they want to pay, women could hire, and in some cases do.
Well, I'm mainly a recording artist, but I do that to fund the music.
She has
but, you're saying basically that
I
we
can't
kind of
get
like
over
devalue
this shit.
ourselves, but at the same time, I'm celibate. I still consider
sorry.
myself a woman of God. And whatever we want.
Didn't have to take, we're going to,
Moving
or
on.
we're going to be happier doing this thing. And I think the answer to that is no.
Right. I would argue that our biology does not have as much of an effect on the things that we choose to do with our careers, with our life choices, as you think it does. Our closest ancestors are chimps and bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, chimps are patriarchal. So, and our previous societies have run egalitarian for millennia. It's not been this inherent desire for men to rule a certain way and women to rule another way. It has been egalitarian, it's been patriarchal because there are things that go into effect, like your situation, your personality, that make you better at doing something.
I think our genetics do play heavily into society. This person is wrong, but but only because I think she's just not being specific enough, okay? Because you have to, if you're going to say that, it's not that our species, our genes have nothing to do with how we form society and the structure and the hierarchy that exists. Okay, it does. It's just that we should try to eliminate it from society. Society should be equal for all people. That should be the goal. No matter who you are. You should have as much of a say as Mr. Moneybags. If that means rich people have a lot less say in how our representatives choose to make decisions within the government, then fine. But that should be our goal. It should be, society should be as equal as possible. We are allowing corporations to balloon and swell, and the CEOs are making big wages. Giant wages even. And the capitalist, fucking forget about it. I don't know.
Just your biology. I know many quiet, nerdy men that would not be good leaders, and I know many strong women, and vice versa. Like, it does not matter as your testosterone, the hormones you admit, is not going to have as much of an effect as I think you think it does.
I totally think it does. And so that's why, let's getting back to college, since I'm assuming you support women going to college.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to say to that either. I'd be like,
when they can freely choose, why there is such a difference in the
it's a good try,
that
though.
women choose versus the
she's
majors
right
that men choose
in
when they go
that
to college.
Well, I think it's also
in
important to
that
note that
if
things are
Candace
changing, and there's like
Owens
many initiatives to get more
could
women into
just,
STEM, to get women into higher paying career fields. When women
like,
have been
think
kept out of
about
these fields for so
how
long, it's a
maybe
slow and steady race to get them there.
it
It's not
doesn't
that
affect
women are not
society the
choosing
way
them. They're slowly
she
learning
thinks
that
it
this is okay for them to choose. There's more women in STEM. There's more
And
lawyers.
that's
There's
her
more women.
point.
Women are making strides to those positions, so it's not like they're
But the way
sedentary
she
and they're
worded
staying
it
in these
there was-
humanities or arts fields.
I don't think you're being honest. I think, like, did you go to college?
I mean, I'm in college. I think I know that
women aren't, it's not because they're not pressured, it's because when quite literally they say, what are you interested in? Women flock to certain things. They just do. We do. We as a whole do. It tends to be, and this is because we are biologically wired. And even when a child is born, when a woman, like a female a child versus a male child, the girls start speaking faster and they speak more words. Just a fact, right? For the rest of their lives. Like, my daughter started speaking, and this is not anecdotal, but I'm giving you an anecdotal example of something that is a real fact. So there's just a biological proclivity there that women like communication. And you see that followed all the way, as an example, into college. Women are drawn toward these careers that are compassionate, emotional, and communicative, which is why you'll see women flooding journalism. That's why even when you see women that are finding success, they are typically in careers that are communicative and compassionate. Women that will say, I want to do psychology, I want to do children's psychology. And so even at the same time that women are saying that they're running away from their biology, so to speak, they are still exhibiting that they very much believe in these determined biological characteristics that I think are something that's just never going to go away.
Okay, I see what she's saying, but no, she's wrong, because it's not our biology, it's our gender roles. That's what, with that specifically, with what she's talking about. The reason women do, like, communication classes is because of the way we raise them. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's like society, okay? Men, let me tell you, men, they take out the garbage. They fucking they take out the garbage and, you know, do dirty things around the house, like chores and whatnot. And you know, I don't know, you go to college, you have a like somewhat semi-successful career, maybe you're a blue collar, you're a tradesman. But in like where I come from, that's the way to. And women, on the other hand, are like, this is obviously not my lived experience, but they're more like, you know, told to like sit down, be quiet, listen, be afraid, that's the big one. Be afraid of everything, like from when they're young, like be afraid of everything and everyone, and especially men and somewhat boys your age too. Be afraid of them as well. Make sure you're afraid of them. Okay, they're scary too. And you know, I don't know, they're not really wrong because of the other ways that we raise men, and also like the generational trauma from, you know, eons ago. I don't know. But anyway,
but I would also bring up that the way
I
that
kind of
women
rambled
are,
there for
young
a
girls
minute,
are given dolls, young
but that's
boys
why
are given sports.
anyway, that's
These
why
things that
Candace is
kids
wrong
learn at a very
here.
early age are very impactful in what
And
children
let's keep
like
going.
and pursue in the future. It's not simply that
It's not genetic.
I don't think there's a biological gene that women like fashion and men don't. That's why we do see men in fashion. That's why there's
it's actually
at the top
genetic
of all these fashion
because
houses,
of
a lot of men are in
communication.
successful positions
No.
in fashion. The way in which you teach children to explore creativity and to play, and what we put women in pink rooms and little girls in pink rooms and boys in blue rooms, that has an effect.
So, and I'll tell you why I disagree. And I know because I had my children back to back that there's a blur here. So I never had to separate them and say, you play with this, you play with that. They were growing up with their toys. I mean, 1 year apart, my daughter and my son. They just are interested in different things. And this is one of the, I think, lies of feminism. And when you actually have children, there may be some exceptional
over time too. 100 years ago,
my boy's first word was car. He's obsessed with trucks. He's obsessed with cars. I did not do that. I do not like. I don't like having to answer those questions about cars. I don't like having to answer questions about trucks because my biological proclivities are not designed. I'm just not feeling passionate about engineering and wanting to know how everything works. You don't recognize that, and this is, I think, one of the worst harms of feminism, because I was a feminist when I was in college.
Your great-granddad was in a little
because you don't have the family yet. So when they make these arguments that you're making, you think that that's real. You think, oh well, it's just because you're not giving the child the Barbie doll that they don't love Barbie dolls, and that's not a reality. We are just quite literally different.
There are many. I'm so sorry. Time is up.
I am going to choose Jenny to have a further conversation with, because
Honestly,
I thought that it was a
think
respectful
is a
dialogue,
pretty
and I want
masculine
people
color.
to be able to learn from the differences. And I think she is probably the best equipped person.
And
to
I think it's really funny when like people try to rage
is that
bait
I believe
that.
feminism
It's
is
even-
wrongly
it's,
interpreted
like,
as anti-men when it
fucking
benefits both men
hilarious.
and women.
It's a great claim. I like that claim. Thank you. Okay. So
Wait, what's the
I
claim?
think that
is that-
in today's
Oh, yeah.
environment, when you look at the messaging that's coming out from self-proclaimed feminists, it's very much an F men can't do anything, women can do bad all by themselves sort of colloquial messaging, which I think is harmful to men and to women. I have seen examples of people that I truly do think are more old school who don't do that. But I think in 2025, we've landed on the side of this. It is, I think, rising to a level of just being anti-men, which is not what I think it was supposed to be aspirationally.
Okay. In response to that, I would just like to say, I think that in all ideologies and beliefs, there is a spectrum, right? And on either side, there's going to be a radical point of view. I do understand how it may come across as negative when women say things like, I hate all men, or F men this, F men that. But I'm also, as a woman, not going to fault other women for having that perspective and fear, because unfortunately our greatest predator is men. Our greatest harm does come from men. And therefore, when women have experienced violence from men, when women have experienced oppression from men, I'm not going to fault them for feeling that way and expressing such. And I think the onus does rely more on men for acknowledging that these issues do exist. It is harming women. And unfortunately, a lot of men don't listen to women, and they actually would rather listen to other men. While that may seem like negative messaging, if we can get past the idea of, oh, this feels like it's attacking my character, like I feel like feminism is attacking me as a man, then I think that we can have a much more productive discussion and move forward in making sure that this society is better for everybody. And I do believe that feminism benefits men as well. And I think that's also misunderstood and misinterpreted in that when we hear that, instantly we turn off, we don't want to listen, right? But when we look at historically what feminism does, it's actually trying to bring women at an equal level to men, give them the same opportunities and options as men, and also not receive the same judgment that men do for the same actions. And so I believe that when men are exposed to more female role models, when men are exposed to more feminine...
And men will hear this and they'll be like, oh, she just like hates it when I fucking watch Asmongold. Like, they're like, yeah, like, I just like, I like listening to men. Like, I don't want to listen to dumb girls. Fucking, I hate women. Yo, I haven't showered in like 3 months. Don't clip that. Don't clip that. That's not fair. But yeah, anyway, men, look, it's really, men, my message for men is just, like, stop watching Asmongold. Please, 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 God, I want him out of my recommended. Just pick someone else. Just pick someone else. Clipped? Shit, we're almost near the end. Did this video make you like a little of Candace? No, not at all. No. I think I hate her more now. I don't know, not a lot more, but yeah, I mean, I guess this wasn't as offensive, maybe. I don't know. This was pretty bad. She said a lot of
more feminist-leaning women, they actually have higher quality of life. They have deeper conversations that they can have with their loved ones. All the men that I know in my life are feminist.
She literally said, okay, look, this has been the funniest display of, I think this is true. This has been the funniest display of Candace Owens' stupidity. I don't think it's been the epitome of her evilness, although a lot of conservatives are evil maxing right now. Especially the ones with institutional power.
Yes, and it is because they are feminists that we all have a beautiful community and beautiful friendships.
Yeah, so I would actually even expand it to say that not only is feminism hostile to men, but it's also very hostile to women. And I think you saw a lot of an example of that today, where there seems to be a reaction when a woman says children are beautiful. It's like, oh my God, how dare you say that? Like having a child. And it's like, why is there this instant reaction to people that are traditional? And you see
in like 3 months. That's how I said it. Oh.
That when we have a society which is really kind of being dominated by what I would call like this hyper sexual character, like of the Kim Kardashian prototype of feminism, weighed against the other extreme, which would be like the Lena Dunham types who are coming out. Lena Dunham's much more the F men forever. Kim Kardashian is kind of the, when I was saying like, come get everything for free, that sort of a model. And I think both of them reject tradition in a way that there's a little bit of hatred there for women who don't want to climb the ladder and work 45 hours a week for a small paycheck and who actually aspire to marriage. They think that there's something intrinsically backwards about that. They think that there's something wrong with women who are wholesome and happy, and they instantly try to problematize that. And I'd say one of the greatest cultural examples of that today was like the feminist attack on Ballerina Farm, which just kind of came out of nowhere. It was so weird. I'm like, we have an example of every feminist on the cover of everything, and it's like, but no, this woman can't have 10 million followers. She's not allowed to have 10 million followers. We have to take her down. And that to me is the greatest example of what modern feminism has become, because they pretend it's about choice, but in reality, they want every woman to enter the workforce and to pretend that they're happy in the workforce from a 9-to-5 job trying to compete with men. And I think, if people are being honest, the overwhelming majority of women are doing that because of financial power, not because they're really happy, and that's why they're binge drinking on the weekends. And
okay, I disagree with that. I think that feminism just gives women options. And if you want to be a stay-at-home like wife and you want to be a trad wife, that's fine. Feminism is not, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people agree with me, feminism is not the belief that you can't do those things and we're trying to convince women that they have to work. I believe that feminism is, if you want to work, go do that. Go get that bag, you know? But if you don't and you want to be a stay-at-home wife, then there shouldn't be consequences for doing that. And I think the whole ballerina farm discussion is kind of highlighting some of the consequences. We see a woman who wanted to be a ballerina but gave up that passion and dream to be a mother. And I don't think that it's wrong to want both. I think that I think there's value in being a mother. I think there's value in having a family, right? I work with kids all the time as a swim teacher. I love kids. But at the same time, I don't want to have to choose between kids and my career path
she
or my
didn't
progress.
choose, and that's another thing is they just keep rejecting her answering this question 1,000 times. Of course, when you're young and before you have kids, the things that I wanted to do aspirationally has radically transformed. From now that I'm married, it suddenly everything came into focus, and really I understand that family is what it's all about. It's like you have your first kid and you change entirely. Your focus changes. And I do find exactly what you're saying is that even when she herself says, this is what I wanted, I was not forced to give up, that's what I wanted when it was just me in my life. And I went to Juilliard and I did what I wanted to do. And I danced as a ballerina, and then my husband moved to support me as a ballerina, and then I got pregnant. And when you have a child, your entire world changes instantly in a moment, and it's hard to describe that to someone who doesn't have a child, because when I was there, I didn't understand it either, so I actually would have agreed more with you until that moment happened. You don't get it. And so what I'm saying is that to see people constantly try to problematize her life when she's like,
Drake,
I have 8
the kind
kids
of
now.
guy
It's like, not only do I
that
love
will
kids, I have 8 of them,
when-
and I'm cooking,
when
and I'm
the
going to
school-
school,
when
and
the
I'm bringing them with me to
bully- when the
Ireland.
school bully
And the
is
attacks on
approaching
the
him, he
trad wife
says,
culture, it just shows you that there
no,
is
not this
fundamentally a
guy
hatred
again.
for tradition, and I think that hatred is being bred into women. And ultimately, when you find those women at 50 who have chased their careers, it has been my experience, and they don't have family,
can
that
say
they
it.
suffer from
Yeah.
tremendous unhappiness if they've missed that window of opportunity to start a family.
I mean, I would like to
say-
disagree
I
with
can
that
say
point
anything
that
I want. That
feminism
doesn't mean
is
that I
hating
will.
on the trad wife life. I think there is a misrepresentation of that life that's being fed to people. For example, people like Nara Smith and Ballerina Farm are they're social media content creators. That is their job, right? So it's not that they're just a stay-at-home mom. Content creation itself, as I'm sure you're aware, is also a job, right? So they are not actually fully trad wives. They also are working. And on top of that, they are marketing this lifestyle that is not attainable by everybody. It's not feasible, and I think you agree with this too, to be spending 8 hours cooking like, I don't know, chocolate chip cookies from scratch where you've harvested the cocoa yourself. You know what I mean? And it's not feasible in our current economic system, right? And maybe that's what people want, and that's great. And I don't think feminism is the one that's telling you you shouldn't want this. I disagree with that strongly. I think feminism is telling you that if you want to pursue that, that's great. That's for you.
I've never met a feminist that didn't find a problem with the trad wives, and that's my point. Is that it's this illusion?
Well, you're meeting one now. I don't think
because as soon as
here-
I said something traditional, everyone rejected. I said you will get more purpose and
I think that's the
joy from
disagreement.
raising you get joy from raising a child. And everyone acted like when I said you get joy from raising a child, like I had stabbed them in the chest.
Well,
it's like,
I think
guys,
it's more
shouldn't we
about-
just like understand that children are like it's a good
No,
thing
and
to
I
inspire
don't
children?
think any of us here hate kids. I think the point.
People would want to have kids if you could afford it. If people could afford it, they would want to. Okay, most people don't, even though they want to have a family. I think lots of people want to have a family and like kind of maybe live somewhat trad or whatever, like the idealistic way. That's what people want. Okay, sure. That's what many people want. Not everybody. Maybe 50% of the population. I don't know. But they have this like ideal form of tradition, and it just doesn't really work in modern society. It's not as viable. Why is that? It's because the buying power of the dollar has gone way down. Wages have stagnated. Inflation has risen. Oh man. But agreed, I'm not straight, but if I were, I don't think I'd be family oriented. I can barely take care of myself, let alone a kid. Can barely afford groceries. No way I could cover bills for my child. Yeah, it's storming right now. Been like a month. It was just storming in Florida. Yeah, and it went pretty far up north. But I guess it just it didn't go that far west. You be safe. Florida has wild hurricanes. I've driven... One time a hurricane started chasing me. I forgot which one it was. It wasn't a super bad one, but I was driving, like... I was driving north. Out of Florida. And I was driving, like, way up into Alabama. And then I went way too far north, so I turned around, and I came back. Wait, no. Nah, I drove straight there. But I think I drove from... I took, like, a weird interstate or highway. Hurricanes scare me more than tornadoes. I don't know. Look, if a tornado picks you up, it's over, okay? But if you get caught in a hurricane, like, if it's a really bad one, you're probably dead, but if... I don't know. I guess the wind... Yeah, the debris... I don't know. Both will kill you, basically, instantly. I saw The Wizard of Oz, and she made it through. People have reported getting picked up by... I don't know if there's ever been a video of that happening, though. I don't know.
Is it's not about I've mentioned something traditional and this is the reaction that I'm getting from it. It's that it's almost like you're making an assumption that this applies to everybody.
Picked up a little bit.
I am making a generalization, and I am saying that if the majority of women did not invest time to start a family, women would be miserable. And I think that recognizing that when women start to, like, the biological clock is real, and when women start to recognize that they spend so much time trying to climb a ladder and they maybe don't find a partner, and it's harder to find a partner now because, as I said, we have devalued ourselves by giving up sex so freely. I do see that there is an increase in those types of women who are relying on drugs to make them happy, whether they're
but not everybody wants marriage, and not everybody wants a relationship.
I think overwhelmingly, women do want the safety of.
Why are people depressed, Candace? Why are people taking pills and whatnot? Why are they doing that? I don't know. It must be because feminism. It must be because feminism.
Too late. And that is what I do a lot of work trying to get women to understand.
Yeah, no, and I understand that you're trying to.
I'm sorry. That's time. I do apologize.
Yeah. Yo, we
have people who are coming because they want to create a social media moment, and these are always, I've done so many events, the most frustrating things because nobody's learning. And I also think it's something that women that are young need to come to terms with, or they're going to end up on the other side and be miserable and be popping pills like a lot of women who bought into the illusion of feminism did. So it was frustrating, but also people can see, like, how many times I just wasn't allowed to speak.
It is important to interrupt conservatives, specifically conservatives like Candace, because once you do that, their fallacies will show themselves.
Today, it felt like one conservative, 19 cisgender mainstream feminists, and the weird queer person just kind of hanging out. We absolutely are part of the feminist movement, and I hope the mainstream gets that one day.
I think that Candace herself is a great example that you can do both. And when you have a society and a culture that encourages women to do what they want, how they want, in a way that is safe and healthy, you will see that women can do it all, as she said, and be happy. I don't think that you have to choose between having kids and having a career. And I think that that is like a fundamentally misleading argument.
I guess I would just say we all agree that sandwiches are good. We just disagree on who should be making them.